allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got no public, so no public comments. Administrative business.
We better have a heart attack here, so nobody hears us.
Even the press.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Shut this thing up, Randall.
Okay.
We have the minutes for March 2nd. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes? Any questions, concerns? That I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 2nd.
Second.
You have a second by Randy? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
Sorry, I was behind on my reading here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got change orders. We have the Central National stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So stuff came in from Central National and bonding to hold up our like security, I think, is what it is. I had the sole authority to sign the papers, but being that they didn't seem to have it right away, I held off till we could have this meeting so everybody could be aware of it before I signed it. And Tina has to attest to it. Does anybody object to any of that, or?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Standard operating.
Yeah, I just felt if I could put it in front of the board first, I'd rather do that, so. If it was something they needed right away, I would have done it. Client name, I wonder if that needs to be Marion County.
I can take care of it. What does it say?
It's just print name, client name. I'm not sure if that means my name or.
I'll make sure it's filled out however it needs to be. I think they want your initials on.
Oh, okay.
I'm just gonna look at this, make sure you got everything.
salary change sheets.
Salary changes for Macy
Mercy Hostetter. Yep.
Emergency management, health, 2164 to 2773 per month, new position. Emergency preparedness coordinator.
Morning, Paul.
No crow today, huh?
No crow.
Timothy Bogle. Salary change for Timothy Bogle for ambulance from 1212 to 1225. 6-month raise. Salary change for Charles Kinney, ambulance from 1515 to 1525. 6-month raise, paramedic. Salary change for Robert Luce, ambulance from 1540 to 1550, 1-year raise, paramedic.
Oh, is it? Okay, good, thanks.
It's been carried around.
Jeez.
Just in case you need
Off the record.
See, putting in the elbow like you're supposed to, right?
I haven't been watching you, really. They say elbow or Kleenex.
Yeah.
Okay, the only other thing that I have this morning is the regional county commissioners meeting. I need to RSVP for that this week. I think the majority of you had said you were planning to go. Diane, were you able to find out if you're
What day is that again?
That is on Tuesday, March 24th in the evening, and that is in Clay Center.
March 24th in Clay Center. Yes, I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
If I can.
I
What time
will
is
go
that?
ahead and RSVP for everyone, and I'll send
6
you a
o'clock.
reminder. Yeah, if they're
5:30.
starting like a meet and greet at 5:30, and then the actual, the rest of it starts at 6, so.
Book the car, Dave and I'll.
Okay, and that's all I have for administrative.
I know with that, Josh. But, looks like the transfer station had mobilization last week. Looks like snow fence got put up, excavators got put in place.
They was working on it Friday evening, I was going down there Friday evening.
Yeah, they said, Wednesday, I think they were starting to bring in the bare necessities.
Since we're waiting for Josh, I did receive by email some high deductible health options from Blue Cross Blue Shield that you guys had requested, so I'm just gonna give you this information. I haven't had a chance to look at it myself or interpret it yet, so. Just a second. So in your little packet here that I gave you with the, I quickly typed up just a results of the survey of what we received back. I did it like in 10 minutes and I haven't proofed it or looked at it at all. So I'm just letting you know if there are typos on that, I apologize. It maybe isn't exactly. But then if the individuals had like attached a written statement, I put that in there for you. So just to look at.
So basically what we received then is your typed up, is it word for word to what they wrote or just?
In most cases.
But not always.
Right. If you want to look at the actual things, that's fine. It's just some people didn't want their names attached to this. And so I have their names, but I didn't include it on the public document.
So like a separate line there, it says, I like the insurance we have, that's one person.
That's one person
Okay.
that selected whatever option is beside it. And I know we're not talking about this yet,
Right,
but
right,
I see that you're taking the time to read it, and so
Mhm.
I wanted to at least let you know what it is. Okay. There are some upcoming budget training workshops that are put on by the state of Kansas. Is that anything that any of you are interested in going to?
Was that in April?
When is it?
I'll have to look at the dates.
It was in El Dorado. One of them was in El Dorado.
I haven't even looked at the locations. Usually, I go every year to one of those, and occasionally I'll take a staff person. But it's just good education about how to fill out the budget forms and budget law and those kind of things. It's kind of dry, but it's put on by the actual state of Kansas, the people that we submit the budgets to.
I wouldn't mind going.
So I'm happy to send information to you if it's something you're interested in.
One year it was like Harvey County's administrator guy did it, and then the Eldred, when you said Butler County down there, their administrator did one year on sort of preparing budget.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I think it came from KAC first of the year or something.
Okay, so this is a little bit different. This is basically about the forms themselves and budget law and those kind of things, and it's put on by the state. So if I'll just find that info and I'll send it out to all of you, and
Okay.
please let me know if you want me to register you for any of those sessions. And then there's also one that I attend every year that is about how to read your financial statements. And actually, the person that puts that on is Scott Lloyd, but I believe those are already all done for this year. But if that's something that you're interested in attending at some point, when I get the information for the next round, I can send those out. So I just think it's good to know how to read some of that information, and it's not like common language that everybody immediately knows what it means, so.
And I don't know whether you still operate by it, or, I don't know that I've seen it in the last couple of years, is just for our county, our budget for this year has all the mill levy, there's a little.
The levy sheet?
Yeah, not the whole sheet, wasn't it? Just a little short piece of paper that had all the main stuff on it. You don't have to get it.
Well, I'm just gonna give
Yeah.
one to each of you. It's the levy sheet, I think is what you're
Okay,
talking about.
okay. Just about like elections, sometimes you always get Donald Duck on there, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get a good answer for him. Yeah, this is it. just see this little folded up thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning. Hi, Joe. Morning.
If you ever want me to review that with you and go over any of the information, I'm happy to do that so that you understand what it all
Thank you.
Dave's not here, but meeting one.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Needing tires for our 850 skid steer. I got bids from 2 different places, Rods and Setco themselves.
These come with the rims and everything, right?
They're a solid
Yeah.
rubber tire. They seem last, especially from Setco themselves. I think we've got about 1.5 years out of the set that we've got right now.
And so that's where we got them the last time.
Yeah, from Setco themselves, yeah.
I would prefer that we got them from Rods, just in case they come in dinged up or messed up, and then there's a, and then it's their deal to fix or get straightened out. I mean,
Does Setco not do the same thing?
yeah, it is.
They're
Same
damaged.
thing, yeah, it's it.
Yeah, but we would have to handle the return shipping and all that stuff.
I don't think so. Usually when it's a warranty, usually you don't.
You would still have to package them back up and put in for the shipping order.
They're both the same brand, so.
Right. And then if the tire peels, you know, for whatever reason, you know, there's a road hazard warranty, you can go back to Rods rather than having to get back to the company. I don't know, I just see the value in,
That I never did check with the warranty. I had them priced.
$100 difference.
yeah, just,
Those generally, they last. They don't have any tears out of them or anything until they start getting pretty down to the core, so.
I just always have seen the value in letting somebody else, if I have an issue with it,
Yeah.
take care of my issue.
We have 2 machines down there, right, Joe?
Yes, we do.
This is the one you're gonna be using up on the deck.
Yeah, this is our main one we use all the time.
Just for some food for thought for the commission, and you too, Josh, I mean, somewhere, I think, after this other building's built, whether you still maintain one Bobcat, but at some time, expenses on the second one ought to start backing off. I mean, I wouldn't expect to buy tires unless we're planning on doing something with it to keep it for a long time, but this is the main unit, and I don't know exactly, you know, I can understand keeping one after the building's built, but somewhere that second unit probably needs to, we need to think about what we're doing with it, so just food for thought. This has nothing to do with this tire bid here, but I'm just, so in case, if the tires are bad on the other one, or have they got a new set, is the other one the same thing, or?
They're the solid rubbers, like. this
Same
one.
size?
Different, because it's a
Different sizes?
330, yeah,
Yep,
there's.
okay.
So I guess, you want a motion on this?
Yeah.
You ready to buy?
I'm ready if you guys are.
So I guess the consensus is anyway that we go with Rod, so it's only $100 difference. So for that reason, I'll make a motion to go ahead and go with Rod. All those other reasons, I think both companies would have adhered to any type of warranty, but to keep it in county, $100, I'll make a motion to go ahead and accept the bid from Rod's Tire for $5,050 for the tires.
I'll second that.
Motion by Diane, second by Ken. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 4.
I gotta go tomorrow to get the truck. They finished with it, so I'm gonna go get the truck. I just need decal. I know Bud had different decal design for the weed department. It'd be all right if I went with that same design for the truck. I think we got them from Arley, so the decals.
You're not gonna put weed department on that truck?
No, we'll put transfer station.
Okay.
So I will mention, I've been down to transfer, I go down there every Monday, bring my trash.
Yeah.
I notice it's pretty trashy.
Yeah,
And we need to-
I've been trying to
I
get
was
them
gonna
on.
say something last week and I forgot.
Yeah,
And again, it just reminded me, but I think we need to maybe do a little policing.
yeah. I was told them to do that last week while I was gone. I think they've been busy trying to get the building cleaned out because they're getting ready to demo in the next day or two, so. But I will mention that to them again.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you. You too.
Will do. You too.
Thank you.
Morning. Morning. I got that next one, eh?
Morning, guys.
All right. Lots of stuff to go over today. Transport fuel bids. MFA was low bid for transport, so I'd like to request approval for them.
MFA was low bid. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve MFA oil for
Second.
For transport fuel.
Yeah, transfer fuel. You got a second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, salary request for 2 new employees.
Alright. So we got a salary change for Antone Vendeska, new part-time seasonal road and bridge, $10 an hour. Got a salary change for Gail Lowry, part-time seasonal road and bridge, for $12 an hour.
We need to move down farther, so we don't put this on the song.
Oh. Actually, this is kind of nice.
Is that, okay,
Germ stuff.
okay,
Is that where he's going?
just. I can't hardly think of anybody that isn't sick today.
What's the difference in salary for part-time seasonal?
Yeah.
The,
Responsibility?
yes, yeah. We're gonna put, our plan is to put Gale in a mower, later on this year, and that's basically what he's gonna be doing. He has a lot more experience and that kind of stuff, so.
Thank you.
All right, back to the list here. A couple weeks ago, I tried to get a Rome disc. On auction, I actually found one with Malm Construction over here at Lynchburg. I've worked with them in the past and everything else. I talked with one of the owners. They actually had a Rome disc that they are offering for sale for $7,000. So, I guess with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and get that picture of it.
It's got
What-
bearings in it?
What's that?
It's got bearings in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing that's bad was I would say bad, was rough was the tires, so we might have to replace that, but that's pretty common on them when they set out and get weather checked. The one on the bottom right-hand corner is actually a brand new one. They have sitting in the weeds, they have been used. But that was over $30,000 for a brand new one. That's crazy. So, but again, I think this would be very beneficial for us, so.
So you're getting the one that's in the weeds?
No. No. I asked about that and he said, no, that wasn't the case. But yeah, basically the pictures of all the other pictures on there were the same one, different views. It has like a 32-inch disc plate on it, so it's definitely heavy duty. And he said, they've even tried using the regular field disc and stuff like that, and he said they just don't last. So,
You gonna have to add any extra weight to this?
nope.
Okay.
That thing, I hate to think how many thousands of pounds that thing weighs the way it is. So,
How comparable is this to what we talked about on Purple Wave?
almost identical.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
they're all about the same size. They make wider ones, but this one runs about 10 foot, so I think it'd be good for us. We'd be able to get turned around, because he said, well, we've got other ones that are wider, and I said, I gotta be able to turn this around in the right of way or at intersections or whatever else. So,
Since we made a motion before for the one with higher value, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approved to buy the Rome disc for.
Do we need to make an offer or?
the $7,000, I asked him, and he was firm on it. He didn't do any less. So,
For $7,000. Price not to exceed $7,000.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
we got the haul information back. We tried to get that done last week. Finally did get Thursday. We went out to 8 different companies to contract the haul. Got responses back from 5. Selected 2 of them to do the local hauling. One contractor's going to do 2 of the roads, and then the other one's going to do the rest of them. So it was surprising how everybody said we'd love to do it, but we've got more rock to haul than what we can do. I thought there was, more demand out there, whatever else, but they just said it's there's a railroad has a big job southeast of here, down in, I don't know if it was even in Chase or Butler, whatever, down there, several 100,000 tons of material, and a lot of them are tied up for that for the next year or 2.
So who are the 2 call people?
We're going with Robinson and Ratzlaff.
And what are they charging a loaded mile?
Robinson was $375, and Ratzlaff was
How do you spell that?
RATZLOFF. They were, I want to say they were at $4.50 up to $5, depending on the different routes. So, but we're gonna start hauling this week, hopefully, and of course with today, who knows for sure. But so,
I'm assuming the majority of the hauling will be done by $375 loaded mile.
just the opposite, actually. Yeah, he only wanted 2 of the roads. So, but that we just put them all out there. They could bid any or none or all or whatever. So, but
So have you got the bids back then for where they're gonna be hauling the rock from?
it's what do you mean?
Well, I thought you were gonna check the rock quarries to where you're gonna buy the rock from. They're gonna be hauling the rock, right?
Right.
Okay, so where are they gonna be hauling it from? What quarries are you gonna be buying the rock from?
APAC, Melbourne, Nelson, and Woodbine. So, anyway, I'll follow up with him. Okay. Last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, we talked about the private use of county right-of-way on roadways and stuff like that. I guess, talking with Jesse, he said they had touched this last year or something, maybe a year ago. And he said he felt the Blademen were very, very reluctant to be involved in this because they know these people that they're turning in or whatever else out there and cause a little bit of a problem, which I guess I can understand. But I guess the main thing that comes into play is some of them are going to be very obvious, some of them not so obvious. But the biggest thing is going to be if you want to say the proof of it, to where we may have to go out and do a survey. Because honestly, if we're gonna make people move crops, fields, fences, whatever else, we're gonna have to have some sort of backing. Now, several ways to do that are to you know, spend the time and effort or whatever else to go out and find the section corners and then find right-of-ways and stuff like that. Currently, we don't have capabilities to do that. One of the things that I would like to do is to invest in a GPS operation to go out and do that. Be a pretty substantial investment of probably at least $30,000 for the equipment, maybe software, stuff that'll go there. The other option we could do is, if we wanted to do that, is we could hire an independent surveyor to go out and do that. Independent surveyor is going to be actually set those corner posts, or set the section corners should be out there, but as far as section property corners, stuff like that, they can legally set them. And with the GPS, we could at least get very close to whatever it is based on our right of way that we have listed. But it comes down to the fact is that if we're gonna, yeah, like I said, most people I don't think will have a problem with if we're out there, we go to rebuild the road or whatever else and say, hey, we need to come back in and cut this out for drainage. I don't think we'd really hear comments from a lot of them. They'd just be happy to get it drained. But it does bring up the legal issue of where exactly is the right of way. We have a map downstairs that basically is set up for the entire county as to what we've been going by our right of way. But with my past experience trying to find property corners and stuff like that off of that information is very, very tough. That's even working with Rebecca and everything, trying to come up with that. So just want to let you know that, you know, if we get to that point, I don't know really what you want to do. I think the GPS would definitely be the way to go, because once we get that set up and we get points all over the county, we could go out and pull these places fairly easy, or much easier than what we would now, because some of them have already been relocated as part of the land surveys and stuff like that today that they have to do. They have to go out and find 3 out of the 4 section corners. And they typically do that with GPS, and then they can coordinate off of them. So
have you talked to legal counsel about that? And the reason I asked is because he made up we already have a resolution in place to do this, and I just don't really personally see where all this is necessary. I mean, some of the roads are quite obvious, and I can't imagine a farmer is going to dispute that. I really find it unnecessary to do all
I guess
this.
my biggest concern would be if we get into it, you know, and not so much the ditch being formed, but there's a new fence for a mile long in the right of way.
Okay, so then if we come across a situation like that and we get somebody to gander up, then maybe we would need to do something like this. But I just don't personally feel as though we need to spend that kind of money just because.
From a legal aspect, when you get into something like that, I think I'd rather have a regular survey done than.
I don't think we need to even go there.
Well, I mean, if we would get into something like that, like I'm talking about.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, but when you start talking about, you know.
I'm with Kent there. I mean, you get into a dispute with somebody, it'd probably be best to have that third party unbiased.
Yeah. I think the main thing will be is if we just go in there and try to work with them, saying, hey, this is what we're looking to do. The thing is, we don't know, is most people say, well, go by the REA poles or go by the fence. Well, again, that's based on, and that brings up the issue, if that's historical data, just how much weight does that have as far as, well, it's been this way for 50 years, why is it wrong now? You know, I'm just throwing that out there.
Actually, it was wrong 50 years ago. They just abused it all this time.
I understand, but
So,
what I'm saying,
and
the
I
attorney's
kinda-
gonna come back and say, well, if it's been this way for 50 years, why is it a problem? You know, it's, you know,
Right.
go
Well,
back to the legal.
Again, I think they can say anything they want. The roads, some of these roads that we are talking about, I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to see that they are in our right of way.
Right.
And so, and I agree with what Becker and Jonas said. If we come across confrontation, then maybe we might need to get it surveyed at that time. But to just do that throughout the county, I
No, I'm
think is a
talking about on a
tremendous waste.
case-by-case incident.
Yeah.
And I would take it one step further, is if we ended up having a lot of disputes, and we had to get a survey done, that time we would probably need to look into the GPS so that we can maintain.
Okay.
So that way we could get the coordinates.
Sure.
Get it resolved with a third party.
Right.
And then maintain those property boundaries with our own GPS system.
Well, like I said, not being a licensed surveyor, I wouldn't be able to set a specific point, but I mean, we could at least we're very confident where this is based on this data that we have. So, but anyway, just something to look at down the road that if we get to that point, so.
So you'd think it the other way around, GPS, and then if you have conflict, you bring in the surveyor.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna have conflict per se, I think we go to the survey because that will establish that. Again, I don't see it being a problem right now, but like I said, I think most of them, like you said, they realize that they're very obvious being out there. So, but again, they've been doing this for so long, and they're keeping the weeds down for us. That's always the comment I hear was, so. But anyway, so we'll just have to work on that. But like I said, it's there's a lot of stuff that can be done out
Yeah,
there.
because
So.
there will be fences to move, because I've dealt with some people that have bought some land in the last couple of years and actually had a survey done when it was bought, because they wanted to put new fences in, and it wasn't in line with the telephone poles.
Right.
It was back on the ground.
And and the RA is gonna, like everybody else, to find out whether those poles are on private land or public land. And I know there's one down here by Florence right now that is in question that has, if the right of way holds true with what we have in the plat, the RA poles, the fence, and the fiber optic line are all on.
County right away.
Yeah. So.
How do
but
you
anyway.
build a road with fiber under it?
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, now you're talking a substantial amount of money, even though the fiber would have to be moved or whatever else is, but we've got a huge wall that we'd have to take down to widen out the road to build up the road. So that may be one case. But anyway, just let you know that we may have to fix that situation.
I think your point, Bryce, is more than, today's world is different. And even though, like Diane said, we know that some of it looks obvious, but the guy at 170th that was just called to the township clerk, report was made to the township clerk and they call me, and that's in south of Hillsborough, 170th here. Where's Hillsborough? Right here. And it's right in Liberty here. And anyway, they had a survey done, and it looked like everything was pretty cool, but their new fence was coming 3 foot down the shoulder on the backside, down with leaving only the ditch. I mean, really just left the ditch is all it leaves. So I get the call and I go and visit with the person. I said, well, Mr. Rosenberg, boy, you got the survey here and everything. All my fences inside the post, inside the pen. So, even though it looks stupid that this person come down the fence to within a foot of the bottom of the ditch, we can't backflow that ditch now. We can't grade. We're going to have to move the ditch over. But my point being is, if we go do an even one, and we throw the dirt, change the flow, whatever we do, we get too far on the person, so then they get perturbed. They go do the survey, and we're in the wrong. That's a point that I could just see it could do. This person just did this 1/8 mile or so over there on his own personal property, and I don't want Bryce to go out and do that, and then the person check us and see that we're in the wrong, because one little case of that 1/8 mile could cost us a lot. And I don't know what the right answer is, but I do know that there's a whole lot of legwork right over there in that room over there before you go out and survey.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know of any employee I don't know of any employee that's capable of going over doing that without having some teaching to do that.
And I can say that Rebecca has been fantastic to work with, because she's really dove in stuff, and she's been frustrated because that's one of the things if we could find the tie to the land off of the section corner, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they ever marked these out way back when. But again, I mean, it's not as though we have to do it right away, but it's just something to look at when we get to that point. But
Well, I'd be extremely cautious on it.
oh yeah, yeah.
Because
Well, and
like
like
one
it's,
case of doing a 1/4 mile of throwing that person's ground one way or the other is going to cost us a lot of.
yeah.
bucks,
Well,
so.
and like I said, with the GPS, say we have a 50-foot right of way. If we find the section corners, we can go out 23 feet or whatever else is, we still have that benefit of the, you know, the safety factor. So, because that's the last thing I want to do is get people fired up because we're, you know, out there. But I mean, I don't really see a problem yet, but it's just something that we may have to look at. So, but
If you want to hear a dictator that knows his business, have Mr. Roseman come and visit with you. He's just as good as his dad.
yeah, yeah.
And he can tell you what most of our road right-of-ways is. There's a
Yeah.
there's a book down in your
Yeah,
office
yeah.
that he's talking about, that he says Marion County needs to laminate, because that's the Bible that he goes by.
It is laminated. The red book is laminated down there.
There was one of them, he said it wasn't laminated yet.
Okay, well, I would say maybe an old time lamination, but anyway,
Okay.
it's got a protective coat over it.
Because I called him on this guy that I'm talking about on 170th, because that's the guy he knows everything. So he was telling me about this, and he said Marion County needs to, because Marion County is also one that on FSA roads, it's only went to 60s on some of them, where where you're talking about your wider roads, when you see them already for blacktops, they've already went to 75s and 85s for their FSA, where Marion County's still down to 60s.
Yeah.
And he said Marion County's done some things a little different in the way back when.
Yeah.
I don't know who set that a long time ago.
So, but anyway, main thing is we'll just have to look at that, obviously deal with it, so.
Question on when you rebuild roads, do you set any marking pins down way below subgrade to mark the center of the road?
We typically don't, and no one else will. That's basically, when you originally set that up, those are set off of section corners. And any control points out there, the PCs, PTs, POTs, whatever else for roadways, those will typically be marked also. They will be typically they're rebar, usually 6 to 8 inches, maybe 10 inches below the pavement. Those have to be checked or reset basically by state law because they become an endangered point. So those are all taken care of there. On the dirt roads, the gravel roads, most time it's just going to be your section lines or your section corners. And Norm said he said it'd be nice to be able to find them at the half section lines, but he said some of them may be there. When they were originally set, they were big old stones buried in the ground with X's. Well, they may or may not still be there, but when they go out and do a license survey, they have to find them. They have to, and that's part of our requirements is to uncover them, see if they can find the point. Typically, they'll put a rebar back in the ground, bring it a little closer to the ground so you can catch it with a magnetic finder. But that's all covered under the Kansas statutes as far as endangered section corners and stuff like that. So those theoretically still should be there. It's just a matter of getting to them. So, yep. Anyway, we'll go on for that. But
If those electrical or gas contractors are out there and hit one, they don't know it.
Yeah.
And
That's just big rock,
and
you
they
know.
Big rock.
Yeah.
Just chews up the side of it and goes on.
Yeah. So I think I've got the asphalt and concrete stockpile locations ready to go. Hopefully by next week I have them lined up. The asphalt over there off of K15 we're gonna store on the city of Gossel property on their sewer lagoons down there. So we'll get that in there, and so we'll get that done. Concrete, I went with somebody else up north trying to get that straightened out. I met with the contractor is doing that project. They're still looking to possibly be in the middle of April. That's one of the first projects they want to do. They want to try to push the envelope and go even sooner. So that would be the only thing, would be just getting that done. So I went out and got bids. I just had the one copy. I got bids from Cornejo and Sons that are doing the asphalt overlay.
Just one bid.
Yeah, just one copy. If anybody else wants to see it, I guess I could. But anyway, the bids for Cornejo and Son that's actually doing the project going down 15 come up at $239,263.50. They originally bid striping on it, and the striping was way out of proportion compared to what we can do. So we're not going to have them do the permanent striping. We'll do that later on this year. We can do it for a very, very large, significant less amount than that. So according to them, I did just line that out, and I've got that noted on there, and just dropped to $24,300. The bid prices they quoted to us were almost the same as what they're doing for KDOT, so I feel that was very good deal for the 2 miles going across there. they're going to cut in a butt joint on the west end so that they can tie into McPherson County's pavement, so there won't be a drop off or whatever else that'll be caught, either way going to snowplow. So, they're also gonna do the rocky edge wedge. So while they're doing that over there, they'll just do it all at one time, and the only thing we'll have to worry about is striping at the end. So, the other bid was from APAC, and they were for $307,000. So, I mean, we're almost $80,000 less. So, I guess, as far as I'm going, now would be the time to do that project over there, to add 2 inches to it, helps significantly. I've also talked with Karen over there at the City of Gossel. They're actually going to contact them to maybe get overlaid through Gossel. Also, they're looking to do some work. And I guess I'll just throw this out there. I don't know what the commission's thoughts are. She just asked if the county would be able to contribute any towards that. Now, she didn't know for sure what the price was gonna be, so she wasn't asking for any certain amount, but just something to look at down the road if you would be interested in maybe helping them out going through town. We had talked about maybe overlaying west of town on 120th. We don't think it needs it. It's still holding up pretty good shape. We've got a couple spots on 120th, 150th, but I don't think it would require any paving on it, just patching for now. So I think we'll be pretty comfortable with just that $240,000 with Cornejo. So I guess that's up to you.
Is that city property from 15 going west, or is any of that connecting going?
City limits ought to be right there, a mile
So
from
that-
McPherson County border.
Is that right when you turn to go west into town? Isn't
There's so much of state highway that
Yes.
they tried giving it to us.
Yeah,
where there's-
that's K215, going
Yeah.
to Gossel,
But
take it
it's-
to city limits, and then they carry through town to,
So that's not considered a connecting link then?
Correct.
We make a small payment.
Not the first part of it, no.
yeah.
Tina, you got something?
Yeah, the other company's information, it was 307, I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was back in that stack.
307, I just had the 2 numbers in there, so.
549, and
Yep.
does that include striping?
Yes,
So that's not apples to apples then, if you're
right.
doing it that way?
Yeah, well, I'm just taking out the striping would be, what, 11,500 off of that, so it would still be,
290 something.
yeah, so.
And this is for what road?
90th west of
K15.
K15. So,
Mount Ridge Road.
if you guys are, if you wanna talk about it or think about it, or,
Well, in the past, you know, we've helped some of the communities with chip seal,
yeah,
but not overlay.
Yeah, we sort of did on Lincolnville. We lived right through Lincolnville years ago when the blacktop come across. We did that too. Went through on the normal width. We don't go for any extra wide or anything like that. Just on the normal 24 feet. So we have done that before when the blacktops come through. But the normal road width, that's all that we would do.
well, like I said, this one here, she was gonna contact them and, you know, find out what it would take, cause she said honestly, they wanted to do something too, they had already talked about it. So, I guess the main thing that we need to talk about is whether you wanna go ahead with this 90th, or what do you wanna do with that? They give us 30 days, on the contract, but, for the bid, so.
And I'm sure you looked at it. Is it just an overlay all we need there? I mean, it was in pretty bad shape last summer.
Actually, I drove it last week, and it's still holding up very, very well. We got the patching down, and that seems to be holding up. The other thing is they're talking about being in there in June, so I'm hoping that we can get in there and maybe get this thing done, you know, before we get any other, you know, heavy impact to it. I actually talked to them because of the turn lane going southbound there. They're actually gonna do the turn lane up on top, and I asked them not to feather down typically where they would do that. Just leave that up, so when they tie in to do our section, they'd have a good butt joint there, tie in with a good butt joint on the west end. So I think it'd be a very good transition all the way through there.
You think that east end doesn't need any buildup? I mean, it's quite the swoop right there.
It's still okay. I mean, I don't know if the problem is if we go into doing any other work right there, It's gonna be, we probably wouldn't be able to get it done between now and when they were here, so we would lose the ability to use their resources going right by there. I really think for what we're getting, I think it's a great price for a 2-inch overlay for 2 miles. You know, considering the biggest problem we face is truck hauling. I mean, even APAC quoted out of Newton is where they were coming from, and it was still considerably higher. You know, so.
And this is a straight overlay, right?
Yep.
Putting 2 inches right on top.
Yep.
Okay. So you're actually increasing the base.
Yep.
What does that do to our road budget, where we're setting at 3 something, 2 something?
Well, you have money budgeted for blacktop projects.
Yeah. Don't know what we've got, but look at the budget.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, that's the bid information that come in. We can look at it and make a decision in the near future. But like I said, they give us 30 days.
If we don't go with Cornejo and we'd have to hire it done next year and whatever, you're probably gonna add, what,
Yeah.
15% or something like that?
Who knows?
Well, what was the estimate for Nighthawk per mile?
Well, doing the full depth reclamation and the double chip seal runs about 125,000 a mile. And that's based on basically doing the whole thing. You know, I mean, your unit costs, obviously, the more units you do, the less it is per unit cost. But that's the biggest problem you face with any kind of work is the mobilization and or getting them here. You know, like I said, we anytime we haul things in, we may pay a huge amount just bringing stuff in with
Nobody's gonna
mobilization.
haul on 15 for
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and next year, I've been told that they're gonna do Highway 50, basically all the way across the county and maybe into Chase County, but that's still a long way from where we are here. That we may touch some of them down there with that, but so that's just the biggest thing is getting these guys mobilized in. They're gonna be sitting there playing up here at the KDOT mixing strip northeast of town here, because they're also redoing 150 all the way across Marion and Chase County.
So we haul from there to there?
Uh-huh. It's cheaper than hauling out of Wichita or whatever else. It usually takes a minimum of 30,000 tons for them to bring in a plant site. So it kind of puts things in perspective. If we ever want to do that, we got to have at least 30,000 tons to bring in. So
I don't think you're gonna find any reason. The only consideration I've got is what you just brought up, Jonah, is our base good enough to put it on? The other side of the road has been completely rebuilt. That's why we put the 3-inch on there. It's been completely rebuilt by us and rock base and
Talking headed out
from
east.
East of
To
the
the church.
east from 15 to the
The
church.
mile.
Yeah, the mile.
now, and honestly, if you want, if we do go with more than that, we can sure do that too. But it's going to be you typically don't want to pave any more than 2 inches in one lift. So you're talking now 2 lifts, which I would think quantity-wise, obviously you're going to get half again as much a quantity if you want to go to 3 inches, whatever else. But if that's something you want to do, I mean, we can sure do that. But it just, you want to we can think about it. We'll look at the budget for next week. I'll talk to them and see what kind of difference it might be for more asphalt, whatever else. So.
The other one. Well, I might price it, see what the
Just-
see what the inch is,
Yeah.
see what it is.
Okay.
If it come in 50 more thousand, why? I'd be
Well,
willing to
and-
go the extra inch.
Yeah, and one thing that would be extremely beneficial was if you do more than one lift, you have a lot more control of your cross slope. That's what we face a lot is when we do patching and stuff like that, it really hurts the cross slope, but you've got to get everything covered. Is if you went with 2 lifts, you could actually do 2 1.5-inch lifts and do the first one more as a leveling course to get your crown brought up, and then you'll have a nice crown when you get done, which will make a huge difference.
Also helps with sealing off the road too.
Yeah. So I'll get back with them and just touch base with them on that. So I did talk with the quarries, and Harshman said that the prices that we pay are the same thing the public pays. But Hand said that they would not allow the public to buy at our prices. So just FYI, what this is. So
They would do what, not allow?
Yeah.
correct.
Because of the volume.
Yeah.
They give volume
Yeah.
discounts.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So Met with Burlington Northern Santa Fe about 2 weeks ago. They're adding siding to the line going across the, basically the crossing. They would extend the siding through Alamo between 240th and 250th. It's pretty low volume road. It's got some tank batteries and stuff up there. What they were looking to do is extend the siding to basically make a double track going through there. They've contacted us. Obviously, I've never seen things go that fast at the railroad, but they're looking to bid the middle of this month on 30% conceptual plans for whatever reason. Never heard of such thing, but they were interested. Number one, they want to obviously let us know because it's our road. They'd have to do more crossing or do another crossing there is. They have asked about the possibility of vacating that road. With the vacation, then any money that they would not have to put into the crossing itself, with the ties and the crossings and stuff like that, that money would be given back to the county for the closing of the road, putting up the barricades, whatever it is. They had a specific term for it. That way, you would not no one would be able to get across the crossing at that point.
We've been through this right over here at Olney. We accepted $150,000, and we put, I'd have to go back and read the minutes, but we accepted $150,000 cash, and I don't remember who was responsible for the barricades at that time. I don't remember whether they was or what, but we also had a road hearing on it to hear just whether it was feasible, not feasible. So
We would have to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I actually had, Sharon gave me the statutes on that, 68-509. It talks about that the county engineer and the board of commissioners should try to, do what they can to eliminate these, if they have to vacate it, whatever else. But yeah, we'd have to go through that whole process. They were just kind of wondering whether the commission was even interested or not, so that we could.
250 in Alamo, you said?
Between 240th and 250th on Alamo.
That's up there.
Like I said, they, talking with Loyal and those guys, they said there's some tank batteries up there that may come into play. But the main thing was, if you're interested in closing that, we just have to start the process of doing that. So, or if you wanted to go out and look at it.
How close is the closest resident?
There's about a mile, there was a half or a mile south on 230th, and then they would be to the west there a little bit. So obviously all those people would have to be contacted. And
is that a dirt road now?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of grassland up in there. There's a lot of cattle out in there.
Yeah, and like I said, that would be the big thing, and then obviously the tank battery, people getting across there. So, but like I said, if you're not interested, I'll just go back to them and say you're not interested. But if you are interested, we'd have to start the legal process of public notification and things like that. So
on the road closings, I was learning some stuff. I need to get a hold of Morris County. I'm told to the grapevine that they have a mess over down by Wilsey, to where the county closed some roads and didn't do it properly. And I don't know all the details yet. I'm going to talk to Dinah here pretty soon, but I understand we need to be really cautious on some of this stuff. And again, I don't know the details, because I didn't talk to her, but I understand there's a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about when we just did the one up here that we probably should have. And I want to just confirm some of these things that I'm hearing. So I think we need to get a little bit more facts before we
I can see there being some issues by closing that because of the size of some of those ranch operations out there, because a lot of them have winter pastures on top of that. Of course, not muddy issues.
Yeah. So, well, like I said, we can if you want to spend some time, obviously, if she wants to check in more information about it, then we can go to we can talk about next week. So, and
too carried away with road.
Yeah, well, that's what I told the railroad. They were asking about it, and I said I have to go to the commission. And like he made a comment with the consultant, said I've never seen things going so fast with the railroad to try to get this stuff done. And I said, well, even if we go through this whole process, that may take 6-8 weeks. And they said, you're essentially gonna have that thing built, or could have that thing built by then, you know, not knowing what's gonna happen with the contract side of things. So I said, then what happens? He said, well, what we do is we go through and just build all the tracks and everything else, and then just either put in or not put in the crossing itself. It's just a crossbuck. It's not electrified with signals or whatever else. So anyway, I'll just tell him that it's still, we're looking for more information, just go with that for now. So, also, final thing was, I didn't know if any of you are interested in, but the North Central Kansas County Highway Officials Association meeting is going to be Wednesday, April 1st at 2020 in Ellsworth. So if anyone is interested in going, they want an RSVP by the 20th of this month.
What's the topic on that?
The North Central Kansas County Highway Officials, it's just a spring meeting. So for that date that's out there, it'd be next week.
April 4th?
Yeah. I got it. So just based on what they're saying, it's a day meeting. So I can get you a copy of this, but that's the information there. So
Is that in our central area of the
yes,
state?
yeah. It was in Dickinson County last year, I believe. They passed around between districts, so we did not have anyone in attendance last year, but that doesn't mean I was sure hoping to go. So. But, the only thing is, we'd like to have executive session for 5 minutes to discuss some personnel issues. So, of non-elected personnel.
5 minutes?
Yep.
Is that to
Sure.
discuss performance?
Yes.
So, move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss performance for item number 1, personal matters and non-elected personnel, for 5 minutes with Bryce, the board, pursuant to KSA 75-4319B.
Second.
Or 5 minutes? I didn't do that, did you vote?
Oh, we got a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Let's see.
I'll get out of executive session, no action taken.
I didn't have anything else unless you guys did, so.
I'll look like there's any-
Alrighty, thank you.
Aye.
Bryce, hang on a second. Is Ben coming back in?
I think so. I can.
Yes, sir. Talk about the bridge there, Ben. Bryce.
Oh, the bridge?
Yeah, the bridge right there in front of his house.
Oh, okay.
180.
He was concerned about it.
They're east of Falcon.
I can start.
Okay, well, I'm just, what I wanted to talk to Matt about was his main concern, and yours too, was the bridge right in front of your house.
Oh, sure.
And so,
Sure.
so that's, I went down to Bryce and we looked it up on the deal and everything, and Bryce, I'll let you probably explain it better than I can, but, that we want to talk about, find out whether it's overloaded or what.
Sure,
it was.
sure.
Yeah, That bridge there was a double barrel, concrete barrel, I believe it's a 10x5. They had it rated as was it 17 ton, 19 ton, it rated?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Finding out based on the ratings, that's basically for a single axle. So to say that we could have something going down there with 40,000 pounds on a single axle would be very, very rare. I can't imagine why. Plus, due to the design criteria of a multiple concrete barrel like that, they're extremely durable, rigid, stuff like that. So it's not rated, has no significant scour or any other recommendations for that. So I wouldn't think there'd be any problem for it.
I think the concern was all the
weight load on the dirt
weight
on it,
load
stuff
of the
like
dirt.
that.
That really isn't going to be, that's going to be spread out over the whole structure. So I wouldn't consider that any kind of a problem whatsoever to go across there.
They
So.
talked about the bridge.
Right in front of your house, man.
Oh.
I went down and talked to Bryce, and he looked it up and everything, and he's not concerned of the dirt being on top of it, load limit or anything like that. That's
Okay.
that's what he told me.
Yeah. Actually, the dirt and rock on the top actually spreads that.
The weight out.
Yes.
Yeah. I
So
understand
it'd be
that.
even less. What they do is that 17 or 19 ton limit they put on there is basically per axle.
Okay.
So, like I said, you'd have to run 40,000 pounds over there with one axle before you would get to that point.
Right.
And it would still take that numerous times up, up until failure. But
That one last time.
yeah, well, yeah, the bridge wasn't bad till the last time you drove across it, right?
Right.
But I foresee no problems in the near future or whatever else for it. So.
The thing that concerned me, Bryce, was how much weight was that dirt and rock that's on it now? How much does that contribute towards the 17 ton? I mean,
Well, again, it actually helps it.
Oh,
Because
really?
as you're going across there, it develops a pyramid
Okay.
off of there, and that pyramid travels across. So basically, they're talking 17 or 19 ton. It's almost like a point load. And the worst part of that would be halfway through that 10 foot would be a 5 foot. So it would increase and then it would decrease once you got to the center span, and then increase and decrease. So I'd have 100% confidence in whatever you want to take across there.
Enough.
So,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right, we are on to commission discussion and employee health insurance. Huge packet for us to go through today on employees' concerns.
Well, the only thing that I would just, I've kind of already explained the information that you have. We didn't get a whole lot of surveys back. One thing to think about, you had thrown out option, that you wanted option C to be listed out there, look at this and not look at wages. But really, I just caution the commission because wages and benefits are not the same thing. They're two separate issues. And you have people that work for the county that don't have the insurance, and basically you're saying that you're never gonna look at wages for anyone. And so, if you go with that option C you're talking about. So I would just caution you on that. That's maybe not the smartest thing to do as far as,
Well, and I don't know that was the total thing, because if they didn't get insurance, then that would be different.
And I think we're just talking about insurance.
Right, I don't think that included people who don't
But-
get the insurance.
right, well, but I
mean,
don't
that's
think
what I understood what he
that's
said.
unfair then too. You just have to be really careful on those types of issues, so just wanted to put that out there.
So I wasn't gonna do this year. I've done it every year, and this year I swore off of it because of the experiences that we've had the last 2 years. But I have contacted other insurance companies again, okay? And I went back to some of the same ones that we had last year. I went back to Sally at Gallagher, and we know that she presents and also has several insurance companies that she provided, one of them being Aetna. And I did dig up the old stuff that we had last year with Aetna. And their prices they have so many options and so many plans that really reduce the cost. And their plans are very much comparable. Yeah, you give a little here, you get a little there, back and forth and back and forth, but for the price savings to the county, it is just absolutely, to me, unrealistic not to consider that. And one of the things that I will bring back up that we discussed last year, which just reminded me again, got me back up again a little bit. Last year we had a 6.3% increase in Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Started out to be 9%, but then Bruce did wiggle it down to 6.3, which was still an increase of somewhere about $58,000 annually for the county. Aetna came in with several plans, and one of their plans that they had was, of course, the Wesley plan, which really didn't get presented properly because it just didn't get presented. So, and that plan would have been $51,000 less than what we were at that time paying for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So if you take the $58,000 increase from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and then you take the $51,000 less in premium, that's a $109,000 difference to the county. And I presented all this last year.
We don't know what their price would be this year.
We don't, I'm going back again,
Yep.
but my point is, with those type of numbers then, I realize they would be different this year, but I can't even fathom that they would be what Blue Cross and Blue Shield is. And I did talk to Sally, and she does feel as though she can definitely give us another option. I also talked to another insurance company, Mr. Steve Elliott from National General, and he represents several insurance companies to include United. And in speaking to him, when I was telling him about the 21% price increase that we got this year from Blue Cross, they both said that they can certainly come up with a better plan and a better premium than that for our employees. And so I think it would be absolutely careless of the commission not to consider other companies. Honestly, the county cannot afford to pay these continued increases from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I know the employees can't continue to pay increases as well. And it's put a terrible financial burden on the county and the employees and the stress, and we really don't need to be going that way. So, Mr. Steve Elliott would be happy to come in and give a proposal, a bid, and I did say, and I know Tina's gonna say there's not enough time, but there is time because both of these people have told me that they would put all the work aside and they would work diligently on this, and they could have a proposal prepared for us in about a week, week and a half. So there is time. Yes, we might push the 11th hour, but even still, this is such a huge situation that we're faced with. And I promise you, if we go with Blue Cross and Blue Shield again this year, you're not gonna get anybody else to bid. I had to beg pretty hard because already, and in fact, here's what Sally said from last year. They would come in and they would do this for us, but because of the time and the effort and the money that it costs to do these proposals, because they're not like just well, they are, pretty much, but they're very time consuming and everything. They're going to charge $8,000 if they come in and do all this, and then we don't consider their plans. But if we do consider one of their plans, they'll forfeit the $8,000.
Meaning if you don't go with their plans.
That's what I just said.
Not
if you don't
consider,
go with
but
one
if
of
you
their
don't
plans,
choose.
yeah, then we'll have to pay the $8,000. We'll have to agree to do that. If they present a plan that is less than Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and we choose not to go with it, then we will be charged the $8,000. If we go with one of their plans, then, like I said, they'll forgo it. This other company, this National General, he was telling me about several of the plans that they have that, I mean, they're just awesome compared to Blue Cross. And I'm not saying Blue Cross is bad, but I'm just simply saying Blue Cross is pricing themselves right out of the industry. A lot of your companies anymore are not going with Blue Cross for this very reason. So I'm suggesting to the commission that we table this discussion for at least 2 weeks and give these other companies an opportunity to provide a bid for us. Health insurance is a big thing, and honestly, I'm worried about the budget. Even if we do, as some of the employees suggested in their survey, that we go ahead and give them a pay increase, or we go ahead and just do all this type of stuff, that affects our bottom line, our budget as to what we can do in the future. And I know you said, Tina, several times that that's in your budget, these costs are in your budget. But at budget time, you prepare for increases. So we fixed the budget knowing that there's gonna be increases, because we knew last year Blue Cross was,
We've
told us.
budgeted for health
Bruce
insurance
told us.
increases every year
Yes.
since, I don't remember.
Right, right.
Maybe since well before me.
Exactly, so we already increased the budget to accept increases, and I'm saying that we probably, it's just time really, it's just common sense. Most families, it's just a good thing to do to review your insurance and change companies periodically. It's the most economic way to do it. Most of your financial institutions will tell you to do that, and I think the same.
Every 3 years it needs to be looked
Yeah,
into for sure.
exactly. So like I say, I just think it would be really foolish not to go ahead and consider some of these other plans. In talking to them, there's some good opportunities, and they're good. I mean, yeah, there's a little give and take here and there, but under the circumstances, what choices have we got, really?
And that obligation to the $8,000 is only if they present a better.
Yes.
But who constitutes what a better plan
it's
is?
Well, if the numbers don't lie, you know, the numbers don't lie, so if they can provide and what they did last year too is Tina provides them certain information, and I have the information that she provides them, how many people took these deductibles and different different options, okay? They try to compare apples to apples so that the employees can get pretty much the same coverages, but less premiums, okay? And less, you know, they might give a little bit more. It was stunning, just some of the things that I noticed, like Blue Cross and Blue Shield, one of their things is your total out of pocket, and this has been pretty stable for the last several years, is for a single, is $5,000. For a family is $10,000. Okay, well, some of these other plans, and that would be if you had a $1,000 or $2,000 deductible, then your total out of pocket would be the $5,000 and the $10,000 if you're a family. Well, some of these other plans are like $3,500 for the single, or $7,000 for the family. Well, you know, that's a $3,000 difference right there, total out of pocket to a family. Now that truly is a better benefit. And the same way with, you know, and you have the same deductible. As I go through, and again, this is last year, but it's not gonna be that much different. Because basically Bruce's plan is the same this year as it was before, with a few little, like the emergency room increase and things like that. But basically, they got pretty much the same thing. They have, and then interestingly, in some of these plans, they have no copay for children. So if you go for immunizations, or you go for sports physicals, or, you know, a stub toe or whatever a child has, there's no copay. That's money in the employee's pocket. That right now on the Blue Cross and Blue Shield, you go to a doctor, you're gonna put out $25, $35, $40 or whatever for that same stub toe, whatever. So, I mean, there are, like I say, the numbers don't lie, so you can look at the policy and see which policy is the better. And the one final thing that I will say is I have talked to several employees out in the field that really don't ever get a chance to see any of these policies. They don't get a chance to have any input in what for insurances are being purchased. Usually the clerks in these different offices and stuff are the ones who really get to examine these policies, and they're the ones that usually we hear the most voice from. And I really think that we need to think about all the employees. So the ones that I have talked to really felt like they'd like to be a part of the different plans because it's their families that are affected. So I do know that talking to these, they would be happy to come in and they'll give a presentation to employees to explain their plans, and give the employees the very same package. Like here's the Aetna one, like we get from Blue Cross. It explains everything that Aetna provides, and then the employees can look and see which one would be best for their family. I think that's more of a fair way for everybody, to let everybody have at least a voice. And maybe take whichever the majority of the employees want, or whatever. I mean, there's so many options. But just to be sitting here and taking Blue Cross and Blue Shield at these ridiculous prices, I feel bad for the employees, because I don't know how they can afford it, and I know the county can't afford it. I can't afford it. I dropped Blue Cross and Blue Shield last year because I couldn't afford their premiums last year. And their deductibles, they didn't pay a bloody thing. Now, I know some employees would disagree with that, but in my experience with Blue Cross and Blue Shield was they didn't pay nothing. So I'm just throwing this out, that there are companies that will and can still come in and give us more options.
So if the commission wants to bid on coverage, that decision needs to be made today, if we're gonna bid.
I don't know of a bid or a proposal, because when they said they would come in and do a proposal, the only thing we'd have to actually accept would be knowing, or if you'd be willing to pay, if you'd be willing to pay the 8,000 if we chose not to take one from her company.
Right, and basically what that is, Jonah, since you were asking about that, is they're paid a commission by United. And so if we don't go with a United plan, then that $8,000 is the commission that they would want us to pay.
Right, but is it? No, I mean,
Was Aetna the same way?
I struggle with-
8,000?
I'm sorry?
Did Aetna still, did they
Which-
want it to 8,000 also if we didn't accept it?
It was Aetna, it wasn't United,
Okay,
it was Aetna.
I thought that last year that Sally got us quotes from Aetna and United.
Well, she
and
did,
both
she
of
got them from
those-
both, but I don't think with her, she's going to, I don't know.
I believe both of those companies pay a commission to Sally's
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, because she has to get paid something.
So that's how she
Right.
gets paid. If you go with either Aetna or United, then those companies pay her directly.
And now in this case, this Steve from this national, he represents United. He didn't say anything to me about a fee, and maybe you'd want to just go with him if you're worried about the fee. But I do know that Sally put forth a.
the only problem I have with the fee is just so vague. I mean, constituting, the numbers, yeah, you can get apples for apples, but you can also get opinion. You can also get employees saying, well, this insurance is better than that insurance, so.
Well, and you
what
don't
constitutes
usually
better?
get apples to apples. You have to
Concessions
be able to
somewhere.
look at the plans and really compare them. And they're not apples to apples, and that's why it's so difficult, because you're not comparing the same things necessarily.
That was one of our
So
issues
that's-
last year.
That's the hard part about it. And I believe that probably this Steve that you're talking about and what Sally does are the same service. And so I think that in the experience of the last 2 to 3 years, you're probably better off asking Sally or Steve to bid both, because basically what you're gonna be doing is putting 2 brokers to go get a quote for the same company from the same company, if you do it the other way.
Okay, well, I got Aetna from Sally and United from Steve. He has national and then United, and Sally has the other. So I didn't, like I said, I wasn't even gonna do this, so I didn't take a lot of time. But just knowing that there are other companies out there, I'm just saying, and I don't care how the commission would wanna do it, if they're willing to do it, if it's Steve or if it's Sally or whatever. But I just, like I said, I just think it's something we have to do. And I mean, they're both very willing to take their time to work with us, to present us something else.
Because Steve is also a broker for, other than Blue Cross. I mean,
Oh, yeah, he does not represent, he could, he said, do Blue Cross, but Blue Cross is, I didn't get into that with him, so I don't know to what extent.
Okay.
I didn't even go there. I just went with the other one. And of course, they both advocate going into, and this is just another option, self-insured or partial self-insured. And I do know a vast majority of your counties anymore are going into the self-insured. And everybody's afraid of that, but they do have stop loss on those. So it would never wipe the county out or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to learn on them, but they're not that, but boy, what they save the counties. When you hear counties that are paying most all the insurance premiums, most of those counties are self-insured. And they can afford to do that because of the savings that they have there. So I really think, I think last year we had to talk, Sally presented that about going into self-insured, but we didn't go into that very deep.
I think if you're gonna make a decision to go that direction, that should be something that you really start examining in like September, October, at the end of the year, and to where you can really see what it's gonna be like and then plan for it. In
And
fact,
that's
it'd be
right.
better if you did it before budget time.
Yeah,
Right.
I
And-
think-
Most of the self-insured counties are the larger populated counties.
And I've gotten feedback from a lot of different sized counties on that, and some of them have had good experiences and some of them haven't, but I haven't researched it recently.
It's
so.
all risk. It's all
Yeah, exactly, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, it's
Right.
not really a risk the way they explain it to me with the stop loss, because the county only pays out so much, and then the insurance company takes over. So you know your maximum payout. If you had a whole bunch of, if we're all in a car accident at the same time, or whatever, there's a stop loss to prevent the risk. Now, that's not to say you can't have multiple, but I'm just saying that they do have the stop loss, and then the insurance companies take over. So, but I think in fact, I haven't heard anybody, and I'm included, I don't have all the answers on the self-insurance, but
No.
I'm just thinking that I really would like to be educated, because I think it is something that we need to consider with healthcare being the way it is until our president changes everything.
Well, I mean, to keep our plan that we had is a $200,000 increase.
Yes, that's right, so we can bite the bullet on other things that we might have wanted to do. That don't include payment plan. And I do understand the frustration to the employees, but you know, we have to look in the future. And you know, as long as we keep bowing down to Blue Cross, they're gonna keep sticking it to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that.
Yeah, I'm just as frustrated with Blue Cross as anybody. I mean,
Mhm.
I've already expressed that in meetings past.
Yeah.
I'm getting my personal one, so.
Yeah, exactly. And I've talked to several people, and employees both now this past week. Help, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I don't want United, oh, I don't want Aetna. And some people say, oh, well, this company has too much paperwork involved. Well, why do you want a little extra paperwork? You wanna pay a huge premium? I mean, I don't think the paperwork is a big thing to consider.
You know, we've been with Blue Cross and Blue Shield so long that, you know, it's like anything else, you develop a comfort level with it. The employees like it, you know.
Yeah, but if
They
it's
know
not
what-
financially sustainable, you've gotta be
No,
out of
I
your comfort
I
zone.
totally agree there. I mean, our increases are just beyond what we've even budgeted for.
Right, exactly.
And
So that's-
Diane, you said that I would say there's not enough time to bid.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting tight on time, but I haven't said we don't have time to bid. I'm just saying, if the commission is wanting to go that way,
We need to do it.
we need to do it. And if you can get a bid from both of those companies, from Sally, she was very good to work with before, and I think that you could probably turn that pretty quick. But there is a lot that's gonna go into that, so we need to, if that's something that you want to look at, and not look at some of these other options from Blue Cross, then we need to get started on it today.
Won't they both have to look back at our history and make decisions?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes. I mean, there's
All
quite a
the
bit of
claims and
information
stuff,
that we have to provide to them, for them to be able to provide a proposal. And I know that all of them will come out and present to the employees, but generally that is, the commission has never had a meeting like that ahead of time, where you've had the proposals in front of the employees. You've always made the decision, and then they come and present the different plans to the employees, and they can choose from the plans that the commission has decided
Give
to
them the
offer.
options.
So,
And the reason I bring that up is because the employees are very involved. And it does seem unfair, 115 employees, and a lot of them don't get to see or hear anything. They just get what is shoved down their throat. And so it's kind of not fair. If you're gonna involve some employees, then we should be fair and let all employees see the same
I send
information.
the information out to everyone when I have it, through the department heads, so we haven't had a big meeting of employees prior to the decision-making process of the board, because that's never been something that the board has pursued in the past. So.
I guess I'm
If they would-
open to looking at other bids. I'm just against trying to saddle employees with really high deductibles.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much point in having insurance if you have too much of a deductible. I mean, that's,
Right.
I struggle with that. So, but and I won't be here next week, but I don't have any problem with you guys getting briefed, and I can try
I
to
think
be
it
a
would
part of
take
the
them about a
conversation on the
week.
23rd.
So even if Tina got them the information today, they wouldn't have anything, or whoever we choose wouldn't have anything for a week at least anyway, so maybe even a week and a half. But then they could present it and
As long as
whatever.
I got it in some sort of email form, I could definitely review it.
Are you?
And we may need to, you may need to consider holding a special meeting.
We could do that too, yes.
Are you gone all week, Joe?
I'm gone all week, so
Okay.
I wouldn't be back till the 23rd.
Okay.
But I'd be available with my phone, I could have my
Yeah.
laptop, I've got the hotspot, I can do whatever.
Well, I think.
Well, if we were gonna have a special meeting, it probably wouldn't be until, you're gonna be gone the week of the 16th.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
It
have
would
one.
probably be that next week
Yeah,
anyway.
it wouldn't be that, it wouldn't be this week, for
I'd
sure.
be around the 23rd, so, and if that But I mean, I'm just saying, if the information was able to get to you guys quicker, I wouldn't wanna hold them.
No, we need the information to make a decision.
I think even the 23rd is plenty of time to make a decision. I mean, even
What's
if we
the
get the
deadline for
information.
policy?
Enrollment, open enrollment's
We
May 5th?
No, open enrollment needs to be held during April
Right.
to get people enrolled, and our renewal date is May 1.
That's about the last week we can do anything. We got anything to get done that week.
So May 1, enrollment is April.
Mhm. What is it, like 2 weeks for enrollment? Is that what it usually takes you?
Well, it depends on, you know, if you change companies, I don't know what that process looks like.
And I would think that Sally would help, or whoever would help in that process.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, the insurance worth having is $200,000 higher.
That's right. So if we spend $8,000 and we get something cheaper or better, comparable, but yet less money, I'd say, well, spend $8,000.
Yeah, I don't believe I have any problem spending $8,000 to do what, for $1 million policy.
Well, I mean, even if it keeps us closer back to last year, and keeps that, what is it, that blue, whatever plan it is.
Right.
I mean, I just see a hard time with somebody getting hit with high deductibles. I mean, it's hard.
I think it's, especially for your lowest paid employees, it's a kind of an impossible choice that you've given as far as, you know, whether the out-of-pocket for medical care is higher or the premium deduction from the paycheck. Some of them can't afford anymore. And then just to throw out the thing about, you know, not looking at wages,
I
you know,
mean,
none of those are good options. for-
Right, and
for
that's
people.
where this really goes down to. I'd rather not pay the insurance company and pay the employees.
Right, right, so.
I'd rather they put it in their pocket.
We can pass this up, I got one for each of that salaries proposal there.
What you got?
So that everybody knows, I
I
think
just-
there's one for her.
I was just trying to understand, so the
You can keep one of
$8,000,
those, Jonah.
when you guys look at that, are you looking at, if it, I think the question is, if you go back to Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's gonna cost you $8,000
Right,
if you did
right.
it. But is the cheaper, lower deductible and cheaper, or is it just lower amount? How do you determine when you look at, compare the two?
Everything, all the above.
But at the same time, if you go, okay, well, we've seen it, but we're still gonna go with Blue Cross, and we're gonna pay the $8,000. I think, in my mind, you know, I'm asking, are you guys kinda got it in your heads, how you determine what's the best deal, you know?
Well, I guess for me, the plan that I'm looking at is the current plan. If we can keep that same benefit for the employees and reduce our costs, that's what I'm after.
And I do have copies of the Aetna plan and the Wesley plan, which the plan should be the same pretty much. I mean, prices have probably changed. I'll give you a copy, I'll give anybody a copy that wants it, because I made several, and you can see the comparisons and what they pay. I mean, it's very good. Like I say, there's a little bit of flux here and there, but it's nothing to write home about. I mean, it's a good
But I do
insurance
want
plan.
these representatives coming in, comparing apples to apples on what we want.
Right.
The original county plan.
Well, then,
And don't mess around with these, we can only go to Wesley Hospital, or
well, wait a
your
minute, now,
contracted
that's not,
providers are
that's not,
different.
wait a minute, now, that's not that should be an option, because that's not bad. I don't know, I think.
Yeah, but
probably
that's a
the same here.
whole, it may not be bad, but that's a whole different sell that you've
Well-
got to give the employees time to digest.
Okay, but wait a minute, I read that Wesley plan deal, and that premium is right now, well, on last year,
Yeah, I'm not saying
was
it's-
something like $400 a month less. And Wesley hospitals, are they bad, Travis? Do you take a lot of patients to the Wesley plan? Does Wesley-
Well, I don't know about the plan, I don't.
Hospital, I'm sorry,
We
hospital.
certainly take a level 1, level 2 traumas to Wesley,
Mhm.
but we also take them St. Francis.
and others.
At that point, it's whoever can receive them. That's where you would maybe deviate, would be we call down there, or not us necessarily. The hospital transfers you out of here. If they don't have an accepting, or they don't have a room at Wesley, but you need to be at a higher level of care, they're gonna put you at St. Francis.
And then Wesley Plan's gonna pay it anyway.
And I'm not, yeah, again, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about the plan, but that's certainly,
Does that, I guess I struggle with that. Does that prohibit you from using one of our local hospitals?
No.
Because if that's the case, I would never go.
No,
for it.
no, it does not. No, it does not prohibit you from using our hospitals. I don't have all the, I'll let you read it, okay? But it's for certain things that, you know, that they go to the Wesley hospitals. I don't think they do this Christie.
Yeah, that's why I said.
I'm not sure
we
about
need
the
to-
Christie thing.
We need to give, we need to say, here's the plan we
Do you do a
have,
lot
this is the
with
plan
Christie?
we wanna match.
50%.
Okay.
So don't waste your time on all this other stuff.
Yeah, I am in a little bit of agreement with Karen. I'd like to see the smoothest transition to the best product for the best cost with the least amount of disruption.
And decide what company you want. Do you like United better than you do Aetna? I mean, which one would you like to hear from? Because you got two different people here, two different companies.
As long as
How
you
do you
don't.
think-
The only thing I
I
heard
think
a
Aetna
lot
is-
from United in the past was we'd had employees that had been on that kind of insurance, or that company, and they hated it, for whatever reason.
Let's-
Well, you
Can
know,
Yeah, please, Travis.
Couple of things. One, why do the premiums go up? They go up because we use the insurance, so they raise the premium. The cost of family insurance is high enough. Your young people, I have a couple of young people on my department that use their wife's insurance because the premiums are less, they're a bigger group, right? So it's the chicken or the egg. We've got to, if we can get premiums down where we can get people on it, then our premiums don't go up every year. You know, if the younger healthy people are paying in, then premiums just don't take the rise. But you gotta get premiums where people can afford it. And then the other thing, the couple that do take their wives' insurance, it is United, and they have no complaints. And again, it's one-sided, I don't have the answer, I've never been on United, but
Yeah,
you gotta get the premium. You know, the one option was gonna be $1,000 a month for me to have family insurance, and that's not sustainable. And I know it's certainly not sustainable.
What company were you come from out there?
We were Blue Cross Blue Shield where I was before, but, and again, I don't know how they did it with the health savings account out there, the high deductible, but they did it where I paid $5 a month premiums. And the rest of my money was put into, my pre-tax money went into a savings account. Tina and I, we haven't had a chance to digest the proposed high deductible here, but it does not appear to be that. So I don't know the difference. Again, I haven't been able to look at it.
and I've heard that too. In years past, United did go through a bump or a hump of whatever, but I think they've really straightened that out because now you do hear good things about United. I think they've learned.
I agree with what he's saying about getting premiums down by getting more people, but I've got personal proof that everybody's covered 100%. Young guys are the majority of what I got. I still got hit with 21%. That's
Yeah.
Blue Cross. They're doing something.
I
I
agree.
know I'm beating a dead horse here, but they're doing something, and I don't agree with it.
And I don't disagree, Joe. I'm saying in general, when your premiums go up, it's maybe not this instance, but generally it's based off usage.
Yes,
And
it is.
if we don't
It
have a
still
lot of
is.
people paying in that aren't using it,
Yeah, Bruce went over that.
Yeah.
Usage part. You know
so
that.
that's all I got.
Yeah, it's the ACA is what's doing it. I mean, that's what I've been told in private enough times with my own plan. It's the ACA.
So we could, and I know, United does have good plans. I don't have a copy of what they presented last year, but they do have good plans.
And I have 3 employees that are, 2 of them are on their wives' United, and they certainly would want to be on our United if that was an option. So, and the third one that wants to come on to county healthcare if it's affordable, so, for what that's worth.
Yeah.
Linda?
I've actually had United, when I went to Wichita and taught, And so one of the things to try to bring it down in the teachers union is there was some incentives there. You know, that the health screenings, if you did that, that would be, you know, it brought the premium down. And what they actually went with smoking and non-smoking. And so if you were a smoker, you actually had to pay more for it because you're a higher risk. So, United was just as good. I'm not
Same
looking
as
at you,
consumption
Jonah.
tax. Same as consumption tax.
But I'm just saying that, you know, so I guess I was just trying to clarify as I'm listening to you, what would determine that you not pick it. So I agree with, you know, and so maybe just calling them before they even come out and bid and say, hey, it's gotta be better than this with
Well,
your
they know that.
plans.
That's
Yeah.
why I called them and told them.
Right.
That's why I'm calling
So-
them. You gotta beat this. That was my number one thing. We cannot afford this. Can you offer something better? That was the first sentence.
But I had the Wesley versus the Via Christi on my United. They take you to the major hospital and you gotta go to Wesley first. I think it's Wesley first versus Via Christi, or maybe the other way around. But if they're full and you're closer, they'll take you. They won't take you a different route because the MS is gonna
They'll pay
take
for
you
that,
to the
yeah.
right. So, they're, yeah.
But
they're-
you're never caught high and dry. I mean, they
Right.
cover you.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
It's
the main
always
thing.
covered.
They
Yes.
prefer you go there first, but if they can't, for whatever reason, they'll take you and you're covered. One other thing I will say about Blue Cross that I don't like is we have individual family. These other companies have individual and spouse, individual and children, and family, which is by far more reasonable to a group like we have. Because either you pay your individual or you gotta pay the maximum to be a family if all you have is one child. I mean, so I think.
We have looked at those kind of rates before. Blue Cross does offer those. But generally speaking, when you go to a 4-tier structure like that, the rates for true families are very much more expensive than they are for the other groups, in our experience of looking at those, so. They do have it, we didn't go to it because we do have quite a few true families that would have really been hurt by that kind of a rate structure, so.
Well, I don't know, I know the city of Marion has those type of rate structures, and some of the ones that I had talked to said that they were, and especially in today's world, you know, it's another way of getting things more reasonable. Just a proposal, and,
Well, just for time, I would not mind hearing from them. The alternative sources.
actually, I'd like to hear from Aetna and United.
Can I see if Sally would provide proposals for both of those?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
if one person, one broker can do it, that would,
If she can, that would be great.
I mean, if that's what the board's wishes are, can you take some sort of a consensus or an action to direct me that direction?
I would make a motion that we take a look at, if Sally can provide us two companies to look at with the same option that we provide today, comparing those to our option. That'd be my motion.
I'll say that.
And if she can't provide United, you want to just disregard to United, or you want to get the other guy who's not going to charge you anything?
He said two companies.
Oh, he said two companies.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he didn't say United, he didn't say Aetna. He said two
Okay,
companies.
okay, so two companies no matter how, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If for some reason she can't do more than one company, then I will get back with the board and,
Yeah.
and you can let me know if you want to make a change.
It's I know it was long,
Oh,
but it
you
is
said
a
that because of-
very important topic. Companies. So,
I guess I asked the same question you did, because I asked if we wanted to find out about Aetna and United, and then he said, well, he said two companies. So you're asking the same question.
Well, I'm just saying, if for some reason Sally can't do that.
That's what I just said.
Because I'm pretty sure that she did last
she did both of them.
do you want
So
to,
I'm fairly comfortable that she can do them both, but
Okay.
if for some reason she only has access to one company this time, then I'll come back to the board on that.
That's what you said was charging $8,000, right?
Yes. Okay.
So do we need to clarify that we would like to see Aetna
They can make
United.
it, yeah.
And possibly others.
Whatever, yeah.
Those were the two she brought to us last year.
Right. I guess what I'm hearing is my concern that those might not.
Those are major players, so I think those are the two that we would have the most interest in.
I would amend my motion to accept United and Aetna, yeah.
And I will continue my second. Is there any other discussion? All's in favor?
Aye. I know it's coming.
Yeah, I know, thank you.
So,
Because they make me
Brad,
young too.
I haven't seen it yet. Do you want to take a quick break?
yeah, I'd like to take a short 5-minute recess. That's why you always see those water spouts. They never get very big.
Well, when the attorney walks in, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Brad, good morning.
Recess went a little bit long, but Brad is here, so I'll continue on with county council.
The first thing I'd like to see if we can get established is some type of a meeting time with Mr. Pimer on the Diamond Vista issue. The times he presented next week were going to be a bit of a problem because it was primarily Tuesday or Thursday. Between his schedule and mine alone, much less everyone else's, that would seem to be more of a challenge. So then we settled on the normal Monday meeting, late morning or very early afternoon if we had to run that long. Then I got a text from him this morning that there was no way he was going to get here by Monday. So his only real option next week is Tuesday. He's already receiving some indication from his company that even domestic travel is something they want to discourage because of the coronavirus issue. But so far he's still able to do that. I'm not sure what to say. Yeah, I know. I'm not sure what to suggest on Tuesday because that's a special meeting of some sort. I know I have commitments from about 10 to 11 and then again about 2. So I don't know if we want to try to do that. He also offered, if nothing else, just because I indicated I'd really like to make some progress, doing it by conference call.
I gotta say, because the only day I have next week, I will be back in town. This is the 18th, so.
So you're talking about next Tuesday, the 17th?
Anything, I would have to be on a
Well,
conference
I
call and all.
probably have to be at 8 o'clock then.
Yeah, if he could, be here, figure we have an hour with him or so, that's probably.
Yeah, Dave.
I mean, I could be here.
Well, there was an option thrown out, I don't know.
17th at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, other than optics,
can.
maybe not looking the greatest, but Dave's offered to put a go-to meeting together at their location. He's throwing that out there. I don't know how those legals may look or the optics may look.
Well,
All I was gonna say is probably what you're gonna say as far as the open meetings. If we can publish or, post that at an alternate location, do it by a go-to meeting to where you'd have video and audio for people that aren't available to be in the room. And if this is for the contract negotiations, it would be an executive session, but you would have to call the meeting publicly to order, properly move and vote to go into executive session, then do your time, and then come back out, announce, or take a vote.
Be better to be here.
Brad, does this have to be executive session? I mean, it's really not
I
contract
don't know.
negotiations.
This one,
I don't think it needs to be
He made a
executive
request
session.
to that effect.
Well, I'm sure he would like it to be kept secret.
But if you choose not to, you choose not to.
Okay. I choose not to.
Do that, sure.
So what, Tuesday at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, either that or, if we wanted to do it late morning, I don't know what works for all of you. I can do it at 8 certainly.
And
Well,
if the
like you said,
majority of
had
you
a
can be,
conflict at 11.
10.
Yeah.
I gotta be back about 10, I think it was 10 to 11 that I had.
I may not be available, I'll be around
Yeah.
Tuesday.
You get on the phone.
Yeah, I could get on the phone.
He will be here on Tuesday, or will that be conference?
The understanding is that he would be present. That was when he'd offered up Tuesday or Thursday. Thursday was just really not much of an option. And so then we went back to Tuesday. Then I talked to him at length on Friday, said, have a meeting on Monday. Is there no way, since it backs up on a weekend, that you can make that? And he thought he could. So I was just going to present that as a later morning alternative for us, or even early afternoon if he couldn't get here that quickly. And he texted this morning first thing and said that that was not going to be an option. And I called him back, but all I got was voicemail, so I haven't spoken to him this morning to see if we could do Monday by conference call, if all else failed, or do Tuesday something, you know, in terms of a time frame.
So in your negotiations with him over the course of the past several weeks, we haven't come to an agreement yet.
No, the.
So we need to bring out the big guns, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Safe to
Further
say
apart.
that, yeah, maybe, I don't know if I'd say further apart, but we put ourselves, I put us further apart, to put it that way, because the standing offer was well above what we had discussed. I went in and candidly and used a much higher.
Well below. Their offer was below what we
Yes, well below what I counted.
Well, we'll just have to show him some more options.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I have a couple extra options you won't like.
I guess I'd be available at Tuesday at 8 o'clock to meet you.
You want to try that? See if I can get that confirmed today and email everyone.
Is there another time that day then, another phone time? Because if he said he was open sometime.
I wouldn't be available after probably 11.
Okay.
On Tuesday? Okay.
And you want him in person, could you do a phone call on Monday? Would he be able to do it?
He hadn't responded to that yet. He had initially talked with me about being present here physically on Monday, late morning, and thought maybe he could make that work. And then I got that response this morning that that just wasn't going to work. He didn't follow up with, oh, but I could do it by phone. So I sent one back and then also called and asked, are you available Monday later morning for a phone call? And I've not heard from him.
Oh, okay.
So Johnny, you would be here Monday, right? Oh, you're not even gonna be here Monday, that's right.
Maybe could be.
So if we can have the majority of the people present, then we could call Jonah potentially if it works for your schedule,
Oh, yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah,
And then
I'll-
I could probably call,
No
I could
worries.
conference in with 2, but that's the most I could do with our technology.
I don't have any problem on the phone. I just, if we need to have a visual.
Well, and if we're doing that here, we don't have really the capability to do a video, we haven't ever done that over here.
Well, yeah, just the cameras on our computers. Somebody can split theirs and I could be on the other end of that screen.
Well, it's gonna have to be somebody better than me. I can tell you that.
I could tell everybody was looking at each other like.
The joke might be on me. You guys might figure out how to put my face clear up there on that screen.
You might, I might get you on
Do
this.
we need to get a kindergartner in here to show you?
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
so.
Yeah, get somebody from elementary school.
Yeah.
Make a recording of myself and put it on loop.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I think we all need, Brad, is where we've been, what you've done, and where does it stand right now? And so, you know, I don't know the commission, I just heard Diane say that she's got some other options. I don't know I know my personal feelings where I'm ready to get this thing over with, because we're not gaining anything sitting here. And so, I think we've talked about it before, I don't think we want to lose 200,000 if we get it, 150, whatever, I don't know. So, I would just like to have that for everybody's hands so we can all see.
Before we meet, in other words.
Yeah, even
sure.
before the call or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll just present it or prepare it in a memorandum.
Okay.
And distribute it. and his responses and that kind of thing as well. Go from there. So then we want to shoot for Tuesday morning at 8. Okay.
And you could tell him that it probably won't be executive session, see what he feels about that.
All right.
Might help him a little bit.
Maybe yes, but yes, I'll advise that there may be some
Public observers. I just don't see any reason to protect them. I mean, I really don't see why you would.
Not at this point in stage.
I know, I mean, everybody knows anyway, basically, that we're battling this.
Well, and you gave instructions as to what your position was, so I don't think there's a lot here that's, unless there you have some proprietary interest that's going into their calculation that they don't want to share, but he hasn't mentioned that this far. As to the road closure, I want to kind of make sure I've confirmed where we are. I've redrafted the resolution and listed it as an indefinite road closure if you chose to go that route. And then prepared a draft of that I haven't given to Dale, because I wanted to talk with you briefly first today of what would amount to I'm going to call it an annual lease, because the farm leases in Kansas are well established and they have kind of a set format and get to February and certain things are supposed to happen. All of that's contained in it. It does not currently allow for complete use, in other words, taking what was the roadway and farming it. It would include maintaining it, meaning if it has weeds on it, he's got to keep that taken care of, because my understanding from watching the video and everything is it's primarily something he would like to be able to utilize to take irrigation across there. The lease itself specifies, as I've drafted it, that as to the roadway, 30 days notice, and we could take it back, because all you're doing is closing it, not losing, and you're preserving all your easements to begin with, but the surface right would be taken back on a 30-day notice without any appeal process. This is different than when someone, like if we had a county industrial park and we just let people farm it year to year while it's not under any kind of development. That one I have provisions in there for if you've got a crop on it, we're gonna let you take that crop off. If we can't let you take that crop off, there may be some damages, that kind of thing. Here, because I've written it in a way that doesn't allow for crop usage at the moment, and again, that's subject to revision if you tell me now we want to let him do that. But my thought was if you start farming it, you tear it up even more. I mean, basically you're going to start completely over.
I just took for granted he was going to farm it.
He did take.
I mean, if you're going to run irrigation over it, he's probably going to plant it.
Yeah. I can certainly do that. I didn't. What I was envisioning was just, if they're piping over it, he's not necessarily irrigating.
No, he's going to run that circle
okay.
over it.
And once some tracks lay into that road, it's done for anyway.
So it's a center pivot system. He's going to get head nasty. Okay. Well, I can change that to the more traditional format, but I probably would still be inclined to not necessarily have the county paying damages for if you came back in and needed that roadway for some reason and a crop planted on it. We do use our best efforts not to tear it up until you have the opportunity to harvest the crop. But since it's your roadway and you're not giving it up, I'm trying to think of the fairest way to handle that, knowing that we're just letting you use it at this point because we don't see a need for it.
Is it reasonable to put something in there that if the ownership of that property changes, whatever, through death or whatever, that it reverts back automatically to the county? And I say that, and I don't know the details, but I know Morris County is going through some horrible situations from these very same decisions that they made years ago. And I'm gonna find the facts out. I haven't had a chance to have a meeting with them over there yet, but I understand that as years pass, ownership changes, and now they're faced with mega dollars to try to get stuff straightened out. And
that's
so,
the purpose of this lease, to avoid any form of assertion of adverse possession, which is an obvious one, because we're doing this by permission knowingly for limited periods of time on an indefinite time frame, which I specify in the resolution. Also, that all the easements remain on it either way statutorily, so you don't get everything with it if you did even have the surface rights. And then finally, with the, if we allow it to be farmed, that it runs with the land, meaning I don't care whether you own it or 3 owners after you own it, that's still Marion County's property. It's just a closed road with us giving you a year-to-year opportunity to utilize it.
And we have the liability on the road still.
No, not the way I've done that. Since it's closed, I mean, our liability kind of extends to the fact that we're, I thought the intent was close it off and gate it. And then the question is, well, okay, at that point, if he's leasing it, that's going to transfer to him because it's not being used as a roadway.
Okay.
So I kind of thought through all of those, and that's what I've come up with so far. But before I was going to talk to Dale again to be sure there wasn't anything else I was missing there. You do, as I noted, have some property owners who had some opposition. Did they appear that day?
And one appeared, and then one took it back. Your husband had signed it.
Oh, yeah, and I gave Elaine Dick's signature.
Yes.
And then the other person that I was talking about was a relative, and that's why they didn't want me to do the name, but they were greatly opposed to it, but I said I would share it with the commission, and I will.
Yeah.
But because of the close relationship, he didn't want me to say it publicly who it
Mhm.
was.
And the people that spoke against were not actually joining property owners. They were, like
Just-
on the township board.
Okay.
One was in favor and one was not. Mr. Dick was opposed and Mr. Cushionberry was not opposed. And they're township board members, that's why they were,
Elaine's the treasurer, as I recall, yeah.
but they were not adjoining.
Property owners.
Was there any Jan's property up there?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
I told him he had to put on his other hat that day.
Yeah.
So where we stand on that is obviously needing to take formal action at some point. With what I've outlined, is that consistent with what you're contemplating? Am I close
Yes.
with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was pretty much everybody was in agreement that we would need the road back if we need the road back.
Someday.
That's
Hopefully never do.
basically the thing.
Did we leave the hearing open and just continue to?
No.
Okay, that was all closed and done.
Yeah, they voted, they just haven't done the resolution.
Okay. Then I would put the resolution on the next meeting. I'll also disseminate to him and you that lease and see if we can just get it all done at once.
So we don't have to hold another hearing just to pass the resolution on
I
the
don't
action
think so,
items?
not if the action was taken from what I read and when I looked at the video, it looked like everything was done. I just forgot to look at the very end to see if there had been any request at the end of our discussion to continue it.
I just wanna say that the Morris County thing, we have been involved in that somewhat. And what they did was they closed a lot of roads just to keep the numbers down, and there was no people there and that type of thing. Well, now, because the county owned it, it's gone for years and years and years, just exactly like what this may happen. Now, these people are wanting to sell. The county did not go ahead and abandon it, they closed them. So that meant the county still owns them. So now some of these pieces of ground are maybe landlocked, which is really the responsibility of the landowner and not the county. And so, two fences have become one over the years. The people there is no road, visible road there. But now the county is trying to possibly close some of those, abandon some of those roads. Now attorneys are getting involved because they go, no, Morris County has to come back now and put a road in there. And it's gonna cost millions of dollars. So it's a big problem right now.
And that was the whole reason for my response to you when you asked that day. We can't, I mean, if you do abandon, you abandon forever. Because coming back in, the expense is extraordinary in a general sense, and that law hasn't changed in 100 years. And going out there with chains, literally as it reads in the statute, and resetting all that, then we have the problem exactly in that circumstance. If it's gone on for 50 years, and some of them, they assume they own it. What I do here, this is an annual deal. It renews the interest, our interest on an annual basis with just a single year lease, that's it. And we have to keep doing it each year, unless and until such time as you decided, yeah, we'll never want it again. So
At that point,
but what that does is avoids exactly the problem that I've been through before with that, so we have to deal with that.
at that point, you would want to vacate it though.
Yeah.
But if you vacate it up front, you don't have, the
Right.
county does
If-
not
if-
have any more
If they
problem.
wanted to,
Yes.
but the question for me was,
Right.
if we vacate it, can we go back later? Well, yeah, but you're gonna do exactly what they're having to do. You have to go in and really, in essence, it's eminent domain and condemnation all over again, and that's a messy, expensive process for something you already own. So that's why I said you don't vacate it with a what if. I mean, it's either do it or don't. If you don't, then we just close it and do this.
If the way you want to set it up now, if somebody, like if Dale left the gate open and somebody came in there and got hurt, Dale doesn't own it, whose liability would that be?
Two
Would it be
answers.
the county's, or would it be
No,
Dale?
two answers to that. The lease hold interest puts him liable for anything and everything that occurs on the property while he holds the lease. That's one. And two, even if you didn't, you just said Dale left the gate open.
No, he said someone left.
Well,
it.
Let's assume it's
Yeah.
Dale,
Yeah.
and he's got a problem. I don't know if someone else, you get
Or
into those
somebody
guys.
opened the gate.
Yeah, some
Trespassing.
then we've got a completely different issue there. But yeah, it's still the way I did the lease. You're on it. You're taking care of it. It's your responsibility. It's your liability during that period of time.
It seems to me like somebody, they tell me that if somebody comes on your land and goes hunting and gets hurt, they can sue you.
They can always do that. No different than if you or I own a,
Sidewalk.
yeah, or a farmstead, or lease a tenancy, some type of an apartment, and you've got someone in it, and it's their friend who trips and falls, and they didn't clear off their sidewalk, because they're the ones leasing it right now. They're the primarily liable party, and the one we'll look to. But can I, if I were the owner of that, be sued? Yeah, I can. But generally, the indemnification that's in that lease is what I'm gonna rely upon and say, you took it, it's your responsibility. They're suing me because I'm an owner, but that's only for standing purposes.
I have to ask a question. When you say that you own it, I think you're saying that if they want to put a road back in, they have to get eminent domain. But I think what down, or like over in Morris County, but what the landowners are saying is the county still owns it. So now we want, not me, but the landowner now wants to put a road back in there, so now they're going with their attorneys to the county and going to sue the county to put the road in because they never abandoned
That's
the
correct.
road.
That's correct.
So it is a huge, right now, it's not so much the other way where the
No,
county
I
is wanting
understand,
to.
yeah.
It's the other way where these landowners
I
are,
want to get back in there and go down the road. And-
Right.
and
It's-
because you've owned it, because they owned it, they legally, the county possibly has to.
And
do
it's a
it.
good point to make, just so I hit the other side of it. I always err on the side of don't give up anything that's land, because you never know 150 years from now whether you're gonna need it. On the other side of that, the upside for you if you vacate it is exactly that. Now it's their problem. And if someone wants to come in and put a road in later, now they petition the county, because the county has no vested right in it anymore, other than their easements,
Right.
which we're statutorily entitled to under the law, always. But I guess that's something to ponder. If you look at it and go, the likelihood of us ever wanting to put a road back in there, or feeling if there's any necessity for one, is so minimal that we'll just vacate it. And get back to your earlier question, no, you can't do it with unless, vacate for now. It's a good way to put it. We can't do that.
Part of that I look at
That road
it-
is a minimum maintenance road, right?
We have several out there.
So if it was ever to put back in, you just run a blade across it and say, here, there's a path. That was minimum maintenance.
But when you go to vacate, a lot of times now, if you have some bridges in that mile, which we're gonna have some bridges to look at here in Fort Allen, or it's already got some bridges in it that's gonna cost you some money, you can see that right up front, that if that ever goes open, you're gonna have to have bridges, so does that change your mind? I mean, to vacate or
Right.
close?
I don't know this mile of road personally.
No,
Are
we
there-
don't.
Are there culverts or bridges on this
There's no
mile that you're
bridges,
talking
No
about?
bridges.
How about culverts?
Maybe, you know,
If
it's
he's gonna
long.
farm it, he's gonna fix those culverts.
I don't think there's anything down through there. It's,
If there's any culverts, it's probably just to divert the spring water.
Yeah.
that's dry sandy stuff there, I don't know if there's even that.
I don't know how he's gonna farm it personally.
Well, and the other thing is,
He's
when
probably
you made that
gonna
comment
wait it
about
down,
something
so
down at Peabody,
it'll
you know, and then there wasn't, well,
Pivot.
is it
Yeah,
because
that's right.
the county didn't vacate the road, they just closed it? Because now the county, the landowner could ask for that road to be reopened,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's your responsibility. So, I just think the county needs to be real careful about this.
How they attack it now.
Yeah.
So,
Like
I
a
guess,
yearly renewal though, that limits the exposure that they're
Mhm.
talking about.
that's its intent and that's the way it's drawn. I guess it kind of, the bright line for you, first of all, and you kind of voted on something we couldn't really do, is either to keep it or not. That's your first question. If you don't, and we vacate it so that it's gone for, at that point, the property owner is vested on either side with it, and it becomes their property, their problem, and whatever they want to do, and no further liability, no need to gate. So those are your advantages that way. But you've lost the ability to connect up on either side of it with roads that are there.
And there's no pasture, I mean, there's pastures closed everywhere, all the way around it for two sides. So the roads for two sides to go north, south, you can go south, but you can't go west or north.
The only way to access any of it is to come in from the south, either this
Yeah.
mile or that mile.
1 mile now.
Yeah, the mile's cut out going east and west, so
Yeah.
you have to come in from the south.
Yeah.
And then you have to own, get over here or
Or
over
get a prescriptive easement.
But
not to get on.
the real thing here is how many, this gentleman just had, as we just talked about, the four-wheeler going down the road. We really, you know, I don't know what was going on up there, whether it was the partying going on up there or what was happening, but and it must be, you know, he's come in twice now. Once when we put the gates up, or put the cattle guards in for him. We didn't do it, he did it himself. And so, we really didn't have any solid reasoning except for, well, there's people tearing my road up. Well, there's
People love to do that. There's people out there
Yeah.
that love to do that.
yeah.
And he brought that up, and his main reason, so he can let that pivot go all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand
But if the county just changed their mind and says they're gonna vacate instead of the action they already took, which was to close, then we would need another hearing
Yes.
for
Right.
that.
that.
Because
That's a
to
material change.
change their
Yeah,
action.
yeah.
So then we'd have to start basically all over
Yeah.
with the notifications and the publications and, so.
This is a simple modification based upon, consistent with what you did. If you're gonna change and look at the other alternative just to be rid of it, then yeah, I would agree.
And I have a question though about the lease and, I mean, who's gonna be looking at that every year?
That's my admonition to it. It's an annual
That's-
thing. It's going to have to be something that we maintain a record of. We do that with some frequency in a lot of the cities because they just have undeveloped land that they're not using, and they'll go ahead and allow someone to farm it. Keeps the weeds down, and everybody wins that way. But that's I wrote up a set this weekend for another city because that's just an annual thing that they have on their
Can't be
reminder list.
perpetual.
Yeah. It's just, you've got to go ahead and do it each year.
So would that lease need to be brought up here every
Yes.
year, and then the landowner be present every year?
And, well, present is up to you, but
Yeah.
it would have to be reviewed each year and agreed
Yeah,
upon.
if you want to accept it again, you
I would think having a landowner present, that keeps it fresh in their mind that this situation can't take place.
Right.
That-
It just creates another one of those housekeeping details that you all have to have, and Tina or someone has to keep track of each year.
Another tickler.
Yeah.
14.
Those kind of things are very easy to
Lose.
overlook
Oh, it
and
really
to
is.
miss over time. And with changes in, people that are in charge of different offices and,
Yes.
and those kind of
Yes.
things, those things are very easy to miss.
Mhm.
And so that's the part about doing it this way that raises concern for
Yeah.
me. Because it's not anything we've done before, to my knowledge. And if it was, then we've never looked at it again.
We should.
Yeah. We have any other.
So from what we've learned this morning, should we hold another hearing and vacate it?
I don't think we need to go that route.
I mean, that, I've known that road for about my whole life. I'm not sure that there's one person a day that was ever on it.
We could always, technically, we could always take up a road vacation in the future.
Yeah, anytime.
But I can see where Tina's coming from. I mean,
Yeah,
potential
That's a
of
little bit
slowing up and
scary.
not do it is
So do
pretty
we,
high.
do we have any other annual lease type renewals?
I don't think we have.
Would it be
I don't
a,
know if any parties we have presented with any.
If we did, they've been missed.
You forgot it.
I don't know.
so I mean.
You know, we have properties that the county is leasing, you know, that we,
And do those typically take place, review?
they're all different, and so,
They're spread out all over. the
I mean, yeah, if we're, for instance, our health department, our planning and zoning office, those kind of things where we're actually leasing properties where we're doing business. And then we do have leases, you know, there's probably a lot of things that are just out there. And I don't know that I probably don't know about all of them. I mean, so I'm just saying, like, I know we have some agreements with some, people around the lake, those kind of things for fence and.
Well, come on, Gary, now again, we don't own the place and it's up for sale for $295,000.
Well, that's an easement though, it's not a lease or anything like
Was
that,
it?
is it?
Yeah, it could be an easement maybe.
So, the things that we put in place and they're just there, those are not so troubling as far as I'm concerned, but the ones that, if we put something in place and then we have to go make sure we're looking at it.
When you
Every
have
so
elected
often.
officials running departments, I don't know how much transition time there is.
There's not, generally, there's no transition time
At
with
all.
anyone who's running a department. If they're gone, then
Yeah.
it's just that quick to lose it, you know what I mean?
So is there any way possible to put that responsibility back on this property owner, on Mr. Coop? Put something in there that at the end of every year, he will come before the county for renewal? I mean, that way it would be on his back
Well, yeah, it
to
would
come and
be-
do that.
I have a 60-day notice requirement in it that's over and above what you're statutorily required to do, like it's November 1 or something like that, if I remember right, to notify if he chooses to wish to renew it. So that burden is already on him. It's mutual though, to the extent that you can say we won't do it. You know, I've written it that way, so it's not just unilateral, but I can put that specific on if he does wish to renew it, notifies us.
And so if we don't hear from him,
Then
then
we
it's null
consider it
void,
lapsed.
and the,
Right.
and the
Of course,
county
then we
pays-
have to remember to go out there and take down our gates.
Well, but that would be.
Yeah, but then that would also allow, if it ever got forgotten, well, it's on them.
That's right.
And the new commission that may come to be decides, no, we're gonna go in there, we're
Mhm.
gonna open this up.
Right.
And I would also think it would need to be during a growing season. You can't, you know.
Yeah,
That
there
lease
could
has
be
to
wheat ground in the ground for January 1st.
Right.
Well, and if we follow the normal statutory scheme, you've got to have that notice in February, and then the crop gets to come off before you do
Right.
anything.
Right.
Mine, like I said, this
Yeah.
is one of those that
With
I've
that,
used in a
yes.
lot of instances where with 30 days notice, we're coming in. You know, and if we tear up an acre of your wheat, well, that's just what you lost, because you didn't pay anything for this anyway. But yeah, that's a good point, and it's one that we try to stay consistent with so we don't run afoul of the statute.
Well, that would make me feel better if it's their responsibility and the county doesn't have to be the one contacting and saying, hey.
They're the one gaining from it.
Yeah, and if they don't, and maybe they get by a year or two because everything is missed and forgotten,
Right.
but then they run that risk.
That
They're
would be
rolling
right.
them dice.
That's right.
This all makes vacating look real simple.
Well, it is.
Agreed.
It is simpler. The front end of this vacating is without question simpler. Back end is if somebody ever comes in and petitions again, you got all that expense and time for everyone.
But to think that they own the land,
Yeah,
even if it gets split up in the family is still on the land.
yeah.
And so they'll have to be
And
responsible
let them
to
deal
get
with
that.
it. If they
the road.
decide to sell part of that land,
Mhm.
let them deal with it. But there's no road there.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess I was trying to get at in Morris County.
That's what they should have done.
If they would have vacated,
They wouldn't
the
have to
county would not have an
Yeah.
issue. They're still paying property taxes, and it's up to those people. We have a situation where I think he owns 25 sections. You know, well, now he's got landlocked, so he'd like to, and so now he's hired some really good attorneys to come in and gonna try to make the county put roads back in,
Mhm.
because the county never vacated the roads.
And he has a good point. As long as the fee simple right is ours, again, it's cake and eat it too kinds of issues. If we want to keep it so there's never any possibility in the future of having to go back in and condemn and go through all that process and pay someone for something that we once had, you hold on to it. But you can deal with the liability issues on that lease arrangement, and I think generally, as long as everybody keeps up to some degree with the lease, you're able to roll with this. But if you want it simple and clean and I never have to think about it again, there's no question that vacating it, we never look back at that point. You still have a right of ingress and egress to go on it, to service any easements that we have if there's anything
Like for
later.
utilities.
Yeah. Mhm.
There currently is.
But that's it. That's the only purpose that we would preserve. So that's the
I guess the other thing is, and I know man's sitting there saying, well, why did he say that? But I'm gonna say it anyway, is I do love our county, and I do love to see it. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. The reason why I'm a little harsh with just up and closing everything, because there's 15 or 20 of you sitting out there right now that would love to close a road in close to them, or that they're farming in between and stuff. I don't know that there's that many. I'm just saying that it seems like it.
But, and I'm gonna go the other route, because I don't think it's more the road closing. I think we as landowners are so desperate to get main roads fixed that we can't imagine these side roads that may be one person a month. We're gonna even do minimum maintenance, because even minimum maintenance, I mean, we're struggling just to get the main roads fixed, so that's where we're coming from. Not so much that we want roads closed. If we had our roads rocked and they had extra time to do these roads, keep them all open.
And this is gonna happen too when it comes time. Dickinson County has already tried it on some of their bridge plans, that not to replace some of the bridges that's in. And it's gonna be a time where that guy sitting here in the middle of the 4 sections, or on any, if he sits here, he's gonna have to go all the way around to get back into just the other side of the creek somewhere. That's just in our future, I think.
Well, yeah, it's in the present.
Okay.
We've got a lot of property that we have to go 4 or 6 or 8 miles around to get to, because the road that used to be a good road, it's not drivable anymore. So to get there, we've gotta go clear around.
I gotta go clear through Florence to get to here on a day like today.
It's just,
Another 8 or 9 miles.
So I think that's kind of where we're at, not so much that we believe that roads should be closed,
no,
it's
we'd
just.
like to have a road around every section, it'd be great, wonderful, but it's not gonna happen.
One other thing that I don't think I've mentioned is the precedential nature of what you do with this. I mean, when we close one, if someone else, I can think of a bunch of others right around there, like right around me, where it's just as easy to say, shoot, give it back to me. We'll just make it part of the farm. And it's really gonna landlock somebody somewhere. Right now, that's not a big deal, because most of the people that own what they own out there own enough that they can get to it from 2 directions, just hop across their own ground. But that's not always the case if you sell it off and separate it, or a family decides to come in and it's an estate and everybody wants their 40 acres or whatever, it's gonna dramatically change that. And when people come in and petition you and say, wait a minute, you did it over here and this is virtually no different than that, it does give that argument. And I'm not saying that for or against, I'm just something you need to consider.
Yes, I'm in favor to just go with what we plan to do. It's a year. It becomes a nuisance. We can always vacate the road. We can always open the road back up. Right now, we haven't handcuffed ourselves in anything.
Diana's decision point was to put the problemity or the repeat
The
deal
burden on the
back up.
leaseholder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To petition, they'll come to the county every week for renewal, every year for renewal.
I understand the long term and to be aware of that, but if we have this renewal happening every year, it may become such a nuisance we don't want to deal with it and we open the road back up. And maybe it becomes such a nuisance that we say, no, this wasn't necessary, but we needed to see it out for ourselves and we vacate it. It could go either way. Right now, it's just, in my mind, it's a trial period.
We're just giving him the access he wants, basically, at this point.
Is that good enough for you?
It is for what I just needed some direction in terms of what to bring to you, so we didn't have 5 alternatives there. I just having to figure out which is which version. Okay? I'll proceed on the basis of what I'd already started with, which was at least putting that onus on him and continuing with the action you've already taken, which was just to close the road. Okay. That's it for today.
You guys have anything?
That's it for the day?
I guess I need to call for, move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel for 5 minutes with Brad and the commission pursuant to KSA 75-4319.
Is this, what's the topic of discussion? You gave the exception that
First.
allows you to go in.
Performance.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Performance.
Oh.
Okay, so for 5 minutes with Brad and the board. Okay.
Motion.
And I'll say,
Second, with Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
When did he sign?
Better not be. I'll tell Linda on you. Yeah, I'll tell Linda. You better be building a real nice doghouse. Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. That brings us to public comments.
Well, I guess I would like to, first of all, ask Brad. There was a kind of comments made possibly that I had looked at someone's performance that I shouldn't have a couple of weeks ago, and that I was out of line for the comments that I said at the county commissioners meeting. So I would like to, first of all, like to know what. I guess my intent was more not his personal performance. I wasn't questioning any of that. In fact, I said that in that, but I was more concerned with maybe the attitude, the pushback, and that I felt like we were losing sight of what we were needing to work on is the public roads, and that please stop, you know. If I did do something personal, I apologize in front of the county commissioners. I'm a person that, I'll take the heat, but you weren't here when I said it, so I wasn't sure how that all came about, so I would like to ask you.
Sure. Let me give the general answer to that one, if that's okay. Whenever, in a public setting, it's a very different set of rules, obviously, than it is in most corporate settings or private ones. And even though the employee may not be an elected official, they may be someone who's appointed or hired by this governing body, or in some way gives rise to their employment. They are entitled to, and it is expected that they will have certain similar privacy rights to anyone else in an employment situation. With that in mind, and it's always tough, the public has a right to come in and voice an opinion, and that public comment section is there for that reason. We always run into this tug and pull, and it's exactly what you're highlighting. If you came in and said, I'm displeased with the overall performance of our engineering department or our ambulance service or whatever, no problem there at all. If you then specify particular employees and specific acts of particular employees, that's usually where I'll interrupt and stop you. And you're going to go, well, how am I ever going to get this out there? You basically make the general comment, then it's probably my duty or the governing entity's duty to stop you and say, okay, if we're going to get into specifics about an individual employee, we're going to need to do that in executive session. They do have the ability in the right circumstances to invite you in and allow you then to be very, very specific about what you have concerns about, and they can take them up there. But that's what the tug and pull is with that. If we start to get specific about the performance of an individual employee, in whatever form that takes, that's usually where I trigger the executive for that privacy concern, because they do have the ability in that instance to complain as to what we did or did not allow to be said about them in public.
So, Brad, I asked you a little bit on that as well, and I will give credit to the Marion Record, which I rarely do. I don't like to, because most of the time they don't deserve it, but I'm going to give credit this time for the editorial that they did on freedom of speech. And people do have the right to freedom of speech. Now, when you're talking about an employee, basically, let's use the scenario you just did, EMS or whoever it is, I don't care. They are the boss of these employees, in essence. And so when they do have a performance, isn't there a line that you draw between when you talk about privacy? That's personal. So to come in and attack them personally, I can understand where you're coming from. But when you're coming in expressing dissatisfaction with the performance, I almost think that's a little bit of a fence riding there.
It is. It's a case by case, and you're right on the line, depending upon how you express your concerns about performance. Again, I carefully chose what I said as an example. If you came in here and signed up and said, I really need to speak to what I consider to be a lack of responsiveness to my concerns about fill in the blank, and that as a result of that, I don't feel we're getting good service, and again, I don't care which department it is, from this department, planning and zoning, emergency services or something. No problem, I'm not going to stop anyone there. That's fine. And that does get to that issue. Now, equating it then to individual employees, because it could be, it may not be a department head, although that's probably where you're going to go and say, hey, we've had this complaint. We need for you to deal with it, and it may very well be about them. And if you need specifics, it's not at all difficult to inquire privately of the citizen for those, and you take those into the executive session with you as well. I mean, there's a number of ways for you to do it and accomplish what you're looking to get done in terms of that concern. Will I ever generally espouse the view that if someone comes in and says, I had a real go-round with fill in the blank, and they, I think, were completely rude, inappropriate, and unprofessional, now we've probably stepped into that privacy area where, yeah, they're still responsible for it. I'm not saying that just because it's a public employee that they don't have the same duties and responsibilities others do, but how we address it. You're their boss, and I know what you're saying, the citizens put you here, but again, there is a separation Citizens can't walk up and say you're fired. You as a collective body can.
So we as a body can sit here and say, we're not happy with your performance.
Not in
Or
open
me
session.
Not in
as
open
an
session.
Yeah.
Still-
Okay, so-
We would still go into an
Okay, so
executive.
but when we're questioning, like I asked before, why this, or this, okay, that's fine.
In a general sense, yes, because I mean, if you're asking, why did we choose to, I don't know, buy this particular piece of equipment? Why did we choose to prioritize the work this week this way? Yeah, no problem there. I would caution about going a whole lot further and saying, well, I just think you're incompetent. Now we're into an area where we're going to be in an executive session to have those discussions. And that's what I meant earlier by a citizen, even if invited in the right circumstances. I mean, it's I have to carefully construct that. Then has the ability to be more blunt about what they think or what their complaint is.
How would you determine the right circumstances?
It's difficult
In the moment.
in all the years because it comes up in an instant. And I'm the one who generally
It
has
has to be your call.
Yeah. Who has to say, woo. If you have any doubt, you can always stop it right there and say, we'll take this up again in a little while or a little later. But yeah, I'll be the first to say there have been times where in retrospect I've looked at it and gone, probably should have stopped that when it went a little too far. Because it is hard to know. It is. Sometimes it starts out with just a simple question about, why in the world did we do this, and this, this way in this particular project? Then it starts to degrade a bit and get into some real specific criticism about some things. And there's a point within which we don't cross. It comes to an executive.
So,
I know, stuff.
So I guess that confuses me
Retrospect.
because,
So, in retrospect, can a person here ask for executive session?
I don't think so.
No.
So,
No,
so how
that
do
comes
you go
from
about?
So several ways. One is to go
Tell
to
me
your county commissioner and say, I've got a real problem. I mean, you can do that anytime. You can pick up the phone and call them whenever you wish and say, I've got a real problem with, whether it's an individual or it is a department or a process, a procedure, or something that they don't think the county is doing. And then you voted for them. The hope is that at that point they're going to bring it up. And then they have the ability to make the request for that executive session.
And Brad, that's a little bit ineffective in some ways, because like when Linda or anybody else from the public, and well, I'll just keep saying EMS, okay? But when you have a real problem, that the problem is just slapping you in the face over and over and over, and it's not just one person or two people, it's county-wide or whatever. I know, for example, many times already, my constituents, I get phone calls all the time, whether it's an open session or executive session or whatever. It's not as effective when the person stands before you and gives you their details and how frustrated they are, rather than I present it to the commission, because most of the time, in a lot of cases, it gets blown off, oh, she's just whining again, or whatever. It's not quite as effective as when the public gets here and, lets you know that the people who appointed us are dissatisfied with what we are allowing our employees to do.
But I guess I'm gonna say, I don't need the public, what I'm saying. I had a concern that I felt like needed to be addressed. And I'm sorry if I took it did the wrong direction. I know personally there are lots of people out there that have these feelings, the same feelings, that would support me in what I might have said. But, so going forward, what you're saying, which I appreciate, is that when I have a concern, that I call my county commissioner, he is then going to bring it up, possibly go into executive session with you guys and have that discussion with you.
And that's the norm, and that's the expectation.
The other though is a written statement. Could always be
provided,
brought forward and put on the agenda. And that's probably the direction I should have went, and I apologize for that. I'm gonna take full blame for
Well, no, I don't think there
Well,
should be
and
any
actually,
blame
Joe,
taken.
we've had in the mail over the course of years, written complaints from people or things, and it's in the mail and it gets passed up and down, but we don't go into executive session to discuss it. We see
And I
it.
did provide that also, you
Yeah.
know,
Now-
so.
I mean, it's, again, not effective.
What about one of our employees addresses a constituent rudely? What I'm trying to get at is, where is a decent, I mean, we have to decide that for our employees, they should not address that, because that's very stickler to me, that they should not be addressed, any citizen should not be addressed rude, unless they invited in or something. I don't expect them to stand there and take it, maybe they say that they should excuse themselves or something like that. But if it does happen from our employees to the public, how's that handled?
If you're in any way, again, same thing, if you're in any way made aware of it, you bring the employee in to have the discussion. And again, because it's going to be a direct addressing of an employee on a deficiency, criticism, or otherwise, it's going to be an executive.
Right.
Disciplinary action.
And it could also be any of them, by the way. None of you, as says, you have a representative among the five. I don't want to give the wrong impression there either, that you can't call others, you can, but generally the logic is to go ahead and call the one that represents you directly, because that's the one you voted for.
I didn't vote for him.
That's the one you didn't vote for.
No, that's the one I don't talk to.
There's a public out there that's got us whether they wanted us or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
For the record, 2 weeks ago, was there, when this all happened, was there anybody else that made a comment about a county employee that was inappropriate?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one the whole problem was.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
I
why
don't
the
believe it
newspaper
was
got
her, I
everything
think it
all
was
messed up, because that's
Mr. Benedict.
when Mike Benedict came in,
That's what
I mean, he
happened.
was.
And hers, did you read hers?
The-
You think it was out of line?
Yeah,
or-
he was the one that was out of line.
And
And
that's-
I've already talked to him about it. He knows how I feel about his comments, okay, so I don't mind saying it publicly. He was out of line, and the newspaper confused his comments with Linda, and she took the
And there's a-
brow beating for it.
There's a perfect example where I have absolutely no problem admitting I was here, and it was said in less than 15 seconds.
And you couldn't understand
And
half
you're
of
wet,
it.
and by the time it's out of his mouth, you say, okay, that's gotta stop.
What did he say? Oh my God, he said that.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's gone. And so like Ken's comment earlier about how do you know? I know, but sometimes it's after that it's already come out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And unringing the bell's a little tough.
Well,
yeah.
out of all of this, moving forward, I appreciate, maybe it was a learning experience for everyone, but now we know how to do it correctly, and that's what I guess that's what I want more than,
And I think that's what she was trying to do, is do it correctly, when she wrote this all out.
Yeah.
And she read it to me, and said, do you see anything here that's a problem? And I said, I don't, but
You told
I'm
her
her
she-
husband, I
you
gotta
told
say
her-
that.
You told her she didn't ask for 10 minutes.
and that goes on the record.
I was trying to eat breakfast.
Do we send that person to you if we know that they're so mad, shaking, their voice is quivering on the phone, and then wham, they slam the phone on you? I mean, do we try to take the situation and direct them to you first, or bring it to us?
Well, I would say
Yeah,
no,
you-
no, I'm kidding. No,
Well, I'm looking for a way to do that.
You absolutely can.
Well-
You can say, I had someone, and I'm not sure they're particularly interested in carrying on a conversation with me about this again, and I will, in those instances, make the phone call on behalf of the county commission, or request it as, you know, an element of, to try to get as much information as I can, because clearly the problem isn't gonna go away. If they're still upset enough to throw the phone down, they're probably still unhappy.
The other thing that I didn't know that was coming. From my, I mean, I probably could have, but he discussed it with you guys, and Dave didn't know either. So, I mean,
You don't know what
He
Mike-
discussed it with me, and I
You
told
don't-
him to not bring it in.
I was gonna say, you don't know what Mike Bennick is gonna do.
Yeah.
And he waited 2 weeks, and then he still probably didn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Did you have a problem with what Linda said, or did you? Or do you know anything about what
Oh, no, I did. I got a copy of it. I read through it. It's one of those that walks the line. I don't think there's anything particularly, I don't want to say inflammatory about it.
I tried not to be.
But as it, the more I could figure out immediately who we were dealing with, the more I get uncomfortable and start thinking, okay, that probably needs to go to an executive.
Sure. And I'm glad to know that up front. So, can I change a topic just a second? I would like to also ask, when you have road closings, who is the people that, how do I want to say it? That,
Not sure what you're asking.
well, when you petition and you have some people that come and say, how does the commission view the people that come? Should it be a hardship on that person that comes and says, I
See
should,
your question.
and versus, I like to drive it on a Sunday afternoon once a month, and so no, I don't want the road closed.
It's very broad, and your question gets right to it. You have two categories. You have those that are contiguous to the property. They have the immediate standing because they'll be immediately and economically benefited if it's vacated per their request. You have a secondary category of individuals, and that can be anybody, but it's primarily the closer they are to that circumstance and the more they can articulate any kind of an inconvenience or loss of economic value or whatever it may be, similar to what we talked about earlier. I got to go around now. Granted, it was a mess, but I can sometimes get through it with a tractor. In those instances, they do have standing to come in and address the commission. What do they have to show, which is getting to the last part of your question? Something of value that is being given up here, because again, those roads were dedicated for the public use and they're supposed to generally be available to all the public. And even if I just like driving that way home from church once a week because it's scenic, that's something I do. And that road is there and I pay my taxes like everyone else. So I'd like to see it remain open. Can they come in and make that recommendation or that request? Yes. Is it to be weighed? Absolutely. It just becomes an element of it. The only ones who can initiate the process are those on the contiguous sides of the property, but the others can all come in with, hardship or just inconvenience.
Okay.
Two of them that's been very interesting is the Albany Railroad crossing down here on 150th, and then the bridge between Dickinson County and Marion County, up a mile east and a mile north of Ramona. We held the meeting at the Ramona City and Senior Center there, and we brought it was people like you that live 4 or 5 miles away, but yet your main road was over there to a farm on the other side of the road, the other side of the project, and both projects brought in that kind of people from the road closing on the railroad to the bridge up there where we worked with Dickinson County, and that's when Dickinson County was there too, and they heard the same thing of the people that come in, and we both worked together to put a bridge back in for that. But
People that didn't have to drive the road, but people that wanted to.
because they had a real reason though. I mean, it wasn't just because they wanted to.
Link for them.
For their farming operation, stuff like that. And we don't know that because you look at the people that surrounding, just like this we're doing with this up here, got the names, well, nobody else should be out there. Well, there is other people out there on those two projects, but that was across the track.
Sure.
That's a good thing.
Is that all public comments?
No, I was gonna ask Brad, when the commissioners give themselves a bonus outside the pay plan, is that misuse of public funds?
I don't know that I'm going to call it misuse, but it needs to be as part of the pay plan. I think we talked about this once before, and there are some opinions, like AG's opinions and that sort of thing out there, that it needs to be addressed in that fashion, so it's contemplated in that regard.
Well, when I was a real mail carrier over at Cedar Point, and there was just me and the postmaster there, and then there's a knock at the door, and it was the United States Postal Inspection Service, so they completed audit, and they found misuse. It was misuse of public funds, and it was only ended up being a couple $100. But anyway, it was a felony. It was $5,000 fine. It was a year's probation, and she lost her job.
And this was for the postmaster?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I was kind of hoping it's that way here. Well, you know, I saved me a lot of money. Save the county a lot of money.
Let me sit somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm spending a ton of money on attorneys right now, and for trying to protect the land I have that I pay taxes on. And when these guys take money unlawfully, as far as I'm concerned, then I would like to see justice. So where can we go? Can we petition?
So I guess and he's asked me that same question multiple times already. So we've identified it, and then the Attorney General's opinions. And so it's, well, if you go by the Attorney General's opinion, it's obviously wrong. Then of course the Lincoln County versus Nelander will brought that all up, as you know. So are there consequences is what he keeps asking.
Yeah, I think the short form answer is that there can be. I have not historically in any kind of instance like that on a token kind of event. Now, if you were enriching yourselves to the tune of 20 or 30 grand each a year on some kind of a bonus, we have different situations. It's a question of degree. Now, it doesn't mean it still can't be called that. I don't disagree. But most of what I researched and got through, I didn't necessarily find them pursuing it as a misuse, just something they corrected and made sure that it followed that pay plan in the future. Having been asked that though again, I will go back through it one more time in the same amount of detail and probably prepare something in writing so that everybody has it.
Is there
And the elected officials currently are not a part of the pay plan,
Right.
so I don't know how.
That's another issue.
Oh, yeah, but, you know what I mean? I sure like that.
So what is the defining number between a misdemeanor and a felony? I know like in bad check writing, it has to be a certain amount
$1,000 or
to be
something.
a felony versus a.
1,000 in most situations. There's also a point of demarcation, potentially 5, but 1,000.
At that time, if he's referring to Marion County, well, the county councilor okayed it and went on with it.
Yeah, I am referring to that.
So, take it what you want.
Well, who was the county council? Was it Susan? Yeah, when I was there, I can't remember her saying that, but anyway, I think,
I don't think it was.
Well, they have that they sign off on all of the
well, she probably got
payments, so.
bonus too, and she asked for another point. I said, well, that maybe they get that time. I think they did look at.
It was just like all the employees were paid.
No,
Well, but not employees, they're elected officials, and that's the discrepancy there. That's the problem.
We're really not considered employees, right? No. I didn't think
You
so.
are.
For pay
well, for
purposes,
pay
that's,
purposes.
And that's for
all that was
IRS
looked at.
purposes.
Yes.
For IRS purposes only.
But you're elected
yes.
officials in the
Right.
other aspects of your job. Any other comments?
That's good enough, I think, for a while.
I got nothing.
Go on to commission comments. Don't know of anything I need to bring up today. Glad to see we're moving towards health insurance stuff. It's huge. It's a huge topic.
It is. And I have another subject I would just ask the commission, or Brad or Tina, I don't know. Our tax sale. We seem to be stagnant on that tax sale.
I
It's
think
coming
that's
up,
on
isn't
the
it?
agenda for next week or sometime.
Yeah, I think it says
Is
right
it?
there.
See,
Yeah.
I can't see it from here. Okay.
I
Well, I know
suppose.
we've been kicking that can down for a long
Yeah,
time. I've got lots
945
of
tax
people
sale.
that have properties that have been dying to sell them, and we're just waiting.
Susan
waiting
told me
for that
about
tax.
2 weeks ago that she was gonna be in. I guess she's on next
Okay,
time.
so it's on the agenda for, is just to give a presentation on it, or set a date for it, or do we know?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she'll give you an update.
I'm sure it's the preliminary discussion. I mean, say, hey, we need to set a date. We need to do this. We need to move forward. Not a good meeting for me to miss.
I think just if she brings it in, tells us what she's gonna do. I don't know, I doubt that, have you ever seen any dates yet? I
No.
haven't seen no dates, no.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to her at all, so I don't
She
know.
probably could have
Yeah.
asked her.
But generally, from our past experience, she comes in and she lets you know where things stand with process serving and where everything is and a potential date. I mean, that's what my past experience has been, and when she comes and reports, so that's what I expect to
Private
get,
work's well done.
so.
Thought I heard something about that. Is there any other topics? mentioned earlier that I saw that construction has started on the transfer station.
Well, it's moving forward. Maybe a couple of windows have been taken out. Equipment there.
I see the skid steer evacuating the place a little bit. Snow fence up.
That's why we're getting all the rain.
Porta
That's
john.
for wanting to.
Porta john was up. Excavator was there.
When you're done, come to the county.
All right.
Has the commission heard any more about, from any of the other communities about recycling?
I haven't heard a word.
I mean, we're fortunate to be able to take it to Fort Riley at this point without being charged. We did take 1 or 2 loads to Hutchinson for $19.50 a ton times 15. We're on the hook for. We didn't.
For how much?
Not 1950.
98.
What, 90?
97.
98.
98.50, excuse me.
Okay.
98.50 a ton times 15. 1 load for sure, maybe 2.
I have been approached. Castle desperately wants to get back in the loop, but we don't know how to make it happen. Told them, you know, by the time they contribute 50 tons a year, and each ton costs, with Josh figured, close to $200 by the time his round trip, his gas, everything. So you add $200 to that ton. I mean, it's a hard sale. So I'm trying to come up with a solution in my mind, but I'm not even close yet.
City of Salina announced they're closing their recycle center March 31st. Closing it down.
That's Butler County now. You say Salina's doing it?
Well, City of Salina,
City of
so
Salina.
I'm guessing it is gonna affect all of Saline County. I'm not sure if all of theirs goes there or not.
Yeah, the stories that I'm seeing, the ones that are trying to keep their recycling alive are coming back to more of a localized setup where they're doing separations. And then they're finding buyers in more local communities that are finding buyers for each material, and they're making it pay. And it's actually but it's an investment. You know, you gotta invest back into your community and employ people to
Equipment, employees.
yeah, and separate, bundle and ship. It's deep, but I mean, I've heard that it pays out, so. Hopefully somebody wants a business venture and comes to Marion County.
So I want to go back to a subject that's going through my mind here a little bit, and that is, I know through some of the classes that I had, like elected officials, okay, we cannot go into executive session for any reason that just to spare one of our feelings, okay? So if I did something really terrible, they can't go into executive session and, you know, give me a tongue lashing for what I got. It has to be done out in public, okay?
Is that a statement or a question?
Well, that's a statement right there. So my next question is, you go back into what we were talking about earlier, back to First Amendment rights, for people to actually come and express their, whether it's their opinion or whatever, other than getting into actual personal things. How do we actually, I know you said, I know there's a proper way to do it, okay? And I understand that that's what the commission wants to do, is do it properly, okay? But you do have people from all walks of life who are not, let's just say, refined or politically correct in their speak, okay? Or just have the mindset that this is where I stand and I'm just saying this. And I'm not being personal, but I'm just telling you of my dissatisfaction. Based on the First Amendment rights, how do we really squelch that, people? You really can't. I don't think so.
Well,
As a public official, it's different.
Well, yeah, I was using that as an example, but I know we can't do that
You
because
got
you said
into
go
about
into executive session.
4 areas I can address with that. Are you talking about employees or the elected body?
Well, I'm talking about employees, for
Okay.
a public person, because of
And your point's well taken. It is innocent for most people. They come in, they think this is where I say my piece about someone.
That's right.
And we talk about First Amendment rights, and that's no different than if you and I decide that we're taking a whole group of people just for the heck of it over to the theater in Newton and sitting down in there, and suddenly I get the compulsion to stand up and yell fire. In there, it's my freedom of speech right to say whatever the heck I want, unless it's in some way going to be impacting in an adverse way someone else, like all the rest of you who get trampled running out of there. It's the classical case that we started with under freedom of speech. You have freedom of speech up to a point, but we also have things called slander.
Right, but slander is if you're saying something that is,
And how do we,
is not true.
and again, and we don't know what's true and what's not when they're standing at that podium, that's one. And two, they're not standing at the podium here, we always do it from the seats, never mind that, but you know what I mean, that's my point when they're making that comment. And again, we're not squashing someone's right to have that particular complaint heard. It just filters through a set of rights on the employee's side, okay?
So employees have the right then not to be accountable publicly?
Not at all, not at all. Just think it through now.
Right.
You go into that executive session and you decide that this person really needs to be disciplined. And you do that in the executive session. And then you come out and announce that certain things are not going to be tolerated. They'll be changed as follows. I mean, you go ahead and express them as a general change in the process, you know, and how things are done. No different than I don't expect an employee, any employee of the county, to be rude to someone. Okay?
Yeah, and I was thinking about what he said as well, and I got that. And that's an isolated, that's, okay, this is what happened, da-da-da. Versus, this is what we've been experiencing year after year after year after year, and we're just tired of this. It's nonsense. We see all our tax dollars going, you know, and you have more than one person, you have different people all the time.
And again, so
trained.
far, what you've just outlined, I don't have a problem with.
Okay.
There's, you know, let's say it's roads.
Okay.
Year after year after year, we've complained about these roads, and we have issues with these roads, and I don't feel like it's being addressed collectively by this this county in any way, shape, or form. And I don't care who you want to lay at that doorstep, whether it is the head of a department, or it's the county commission as a whole, or it's everybody that works for the county. I don't care. We have this consistent, continuing problem. Again, that's just general in nature. You haven't heard me say anything about anyone in particular,
Okay.
And so you're fine with that.
Okay.
But then if you take it a step further, and while I'm at it, this guy who runs a road grader comes by my house and always leaves a heap of dirt right in front. And I stopped him the other day. I threw myself in front of the road grader, and he got stopped just in time. And he got out and screamed the following expletives at me. And I think he's a and go on with all of that. No.
Okay.
Now I'm going to stop them. Not that that isn't something that should be heard by you and dealt with by you, but now we're talking about a specific employee and specific actions of that particular employee.
Even if that employee's name isn't mentioned, if you can deduce that they're talking.
Yeah, if they mention it, it's at that point that's easy. That's one of the ones where Kent's question for me. Then at that point I can stop and say, wait. If they have enough, if you get enough warning that that's about what they're about to do. But yeah, if you can deduce who it is and it's a specific person, it's not too difficult to know who runs the road grader past their house. I usually err on the side of caution with that and take that in. And then it's expected that you will take up their cause in an executive session and say, okay, I've got constituents who are complaining heavily about this particular employee who now, let's assume, is sitting in there with you, and I want to know if this is, you know, you go from there.
So if it's an employee, would the board go to the department head first,
Yes.
probably, to discuss it with them
Yes.
in an executive session and
Yeah.
have them?
Different piece to the puzzle. Yeah, I'm skipping over steps, but
Well,
you guys
I just
have.
feel like maybe clarity sometimes is needed.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
Specificity.
You have a chain of command that, you know, the people that answer to you directly, not that all of them aren't in some way, shape, or form accountable, but you've got department heads, and they then have employees that work for them. And if you've got, I would always start with that department head.
No, and I understand that, and I was just bringing that up because I know there's a lot of people, and like you said, roads are a hot topic, okay? And people do get to the point of boiling, okay? And of course, and they do feel, like you said, their only recourse is coming to the commission and just, you know, because I told my commissioner ain't doing anything, but maybe that commissioner is doing something, but they just, nothing is getting done.
And again,
So-
that gets to another part of the question that you asked. Now, as to you guys, as long as it isn't completely less than civil and vulgar and doesn't rise to the level of disorderly conduct, if they want to come in and point a finger at you and say, I don't think you're doing your job,
Right.
they have that ability because you are elected officials and you gave up that privacy right when you signed your name to run for office.
No, and I fully understand that, yes. Yeah, but I was just wondering, because there are so many people out there, and roads is the issue, and everybody sees it every day, because it's a road, you know. So, why I don't like to, I'm like Eric Myers on that newspaper article. I really am a stickler on trying to squelch anybody's First Amendment rights.
Yeah, no, and
I hear stuff all the time I don't like, and even about me, but I'll take the beating because I'm in that position.
it's an essential element of how we function. So I'm no less adamant about it as well. But what we, I don't know how else to put it without spending 2 hours of your time.
No, that's
When
okay.
you're, when you're dealing with individual rights versus, you got civil rights, civil liberties on one side of the equation. You've got the codified forms of those in our Constitution and certain other statutory schemes. And one of those is this right to privacy. There are certain circumstances, for example, just using something with this current virus, where HIPAA is going to preclude someone from giving you information that you desperately might want to have. Because you're running, even though it's a free speech right, you know somebody has this virus. But you can't go and tell anybody, especially if you're in the medical profession. Because the privacy right of that individual has been sufficiently codified that it protects against, it obviates against the complete use of freedom of speech.
No different than our federal medical leave.
Yeah, same thing.
That's a deep subject.
It is, and that's why it's difficult when you ask the question, and it's troubling if you're sitting there trying to think through all the examples of it. Believe me, I don't have perfect knowledge of that either, and it's case by case, but those general standards we try to apply just because we have to. In a public entity, we're required to protect the privacy of the individual employee.
Okay, but again, the privacy of that individual, but not necessarily his public working ethics or his public working. I mean, I would not want to sit here and scold somebody because of what he's doing here at his house. But if it's what he's doing, you know, in his job realm, I mean, I really think you're kind of splitting hairs there.
You're still there.
I'm still there.
Yeah, unfortunately, for what I understand what you're wanting to do, but no, you're still there because it's your interaction with them is related to how they carry on their job. That, to the extent of a broad-based discussion about what are our priorities for infrastructure improvement over the next 12 months, consistent with the strategic plan that we put together. You do that all you want out in public, no problem there at all. But then if you go, and I think you're sitting at your desk far too much looking at that strategic plan instead of going out and carrying it out. Now you've stepped over the line in that same conversation. That one's going to go into executive session.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I think all four of us was texture of a road that you and I share. Probably caught in the middle of the road's been prepared for some, brought to prepare it up, but now we got caught in a rainstorm, and if I looked at the weather last night, I think we're gonna get a lot more rain here in the next few weeks. The way it looked, I think.
Next 10 days.
10 or 12, I've seen it quite a bit. I'd like just to, if the commission would be okay, just have you go down and see what we're gonna do about that, because there may be 100 roads like this in our county. I'm not gonna say there's not, but due to I think maybe just being graded in the last week or so, it's got a lot of slop on it, and so maybe you can go down and see if we're gonna attempt to do something. My half's over here on this half, and your half's on the other half, so. Thank you. If the commission feels.
We drive.
Looks like the ruts are long.
The ruts are more on your side, Randy.
And I will
Yeah, that's
say,
more on your side, right?
I will say, Randy, that I have talked to the county engineer today about that, and he did tell me that he was gonna, you know, he understood the problem and he was gonna try to take care of it. So,
He said the county engineer, was that no? Was that a no?
could I
Is
not
it
say
no
that?
one? No, that one was okay. He had a conversation with the county engineer. Got no problem there.
Yeah, and that was a positive reinforcement.
What's that?
That was a positive reinforcement, which was way
Gotta
different
keep
than
going.
negative.
We had a good conversation.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to see something, I mean, and if somebody else calls in with this, I would hope that he would attend
Well, it was just so bad this morning, you know, that our disabled daughter got stuck, you know, people come and pick her up every morning. They got stuck, I had to pull them out. If an ambulance had to go down that road, yeah, it wouldn't be able to. And there's 16 people live on that stretch of road. So,
And
I
it's a
didn't know
school
that,
bus
I mean,
route.
I didn't know there was a conversation on that already, but if you.
Plus you said it's a bus route, right?
right, it's a bus route.
It was this, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but was this on the first 2 miles south
It
of
was on the
56?
first mile south of 56. Yeah.
That is something that's going to be addressed.
Mhm.
Don't know how much of a fix, but it's going to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so one final thing, other subject. I noticed, Brad, on your contract, you do not charge the county for your mileage, which you have that option in your contract to do. And I've never seen you
No.
go. So that's something that you need to take out of your next contract.
Oh, gosh, you leave it in, that's fine, too. Yeah, no, I don't.
No, I seen that, and I think I said that before, you know, you have the option, and I've never seen you charge any mileage.
I usually just use the flat rate, so.
Well, that's very generous, appreciate that. That's
You go
nice,
all
that
right,
is
you
very
charge
nice,
mileage.
I appreciate that.
Use it,
So, okay, Randy makes a motion to adjourn. Got a second by Kent. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Right, you're gonna be here next week, right?
Colleen Coots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she lived out there by me, she said that.
Well, Randy, I think that's a really cool picture. You know,
Wow,
it is, but yet it's not too bad.
My wife joked before me